Great moments come alive on NBC Sports. With a blend of tradition and the latest in television technology, we're building tomorrow's memories today, right here on NBC.
Today on NBC, Cal Ripken brings his 16-game hitting streak into Fenway Park to face Boston's King of the Hill, Roger Clemens, and the Eastern Division leading Boston Red Sox. Or some of you will see Dave Winfield and the Yankees travel north of the border to Exhibition Stadium to battle the Toronto Blue Jays. Then three-time champion Brazil takes on France in the quarterfinals of the World Cup. But first, NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look. Brought to you by Krylon for a smooth, fast, professional finish. And by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marv Albert in New York, and this is the start of another big day of sports here on NBC. The big story today at a news conference in Birmingham, Alabama, within the next few minutes. Heisman Trophy winner Bo Jackson will announce he is opting for baseball over football. Bo, a fourth-round draft pick of the Kansas City Royals and the NFL's top draft selection picked by Tampa Bay, will play baseball. The terms of the contract were not announced. Baseball last night. The White Sox, who had manager Tony La Russa twisting in the wind for some time, finally did it. They fired him.
We have not talked with anybody about managing the Chicago White Sox in over a month. And as I said, Doug Rader is the interim manager right now, and there's no timetable set for that specific duty right now.
And Tom Seaver of the Sox did not have it last night. This is Jim Presley of Seattle driving it out against Seaver. White Sox losing to Seattle 5-3. A wild one in Toronto last night. George Bell with this grand slam homer with 2 out of the 9th for a 6-run Toronto rally to tie the game against Dave Righetti. Righetti was so upset, he took the fresh baseball, threw it over the right field wall, but the Yanks won 10-8-10. In Boston last night, the Orioles stopped their slide by walloping the Red Sox 14-3. 6-hitter for Mike Boddicker. He's now 10-1, the second 10-game winner in the American League. Roger Clemens at 12-0, the other man in double digits. And what a season for Clemens when you consider he's coming off arm surgery and admits he was not sure how he would do this season.
I was unsure to myself how my arm was going to react to all the work, but I did a lot of hard work during the winter, and right now they say if I stay real religious with my exercises that I'll keep getting stronger and stronger, and right now that seems to be the case.
So Roger Clemens at 12-0 continues his quest this afternoon, going up against the Orioles here on NBC. Now, the fastest start ever was back in 1912. Rube Marquard of the New York Giants opened up at 19-0. Marquard, though, did not have a good finish. He went 7-11 the rest of the way and finished at 26-11. We'll be back with a wild week in baseball and Cincinnati Reds president Marge Schott, who has not had a pleasant season. Stay with us. Well, this past week, not your usual week of hits, runs, and errors. A week that featured a missing player, Ken Griffey of the Yankees, who went AWOL for a day. His absence was said to be non-baseball related, but George Steinbrenner fined him $10,000.
I know it's a steep fine compared to what some other clubs have fined their players, but I believe when a man's paid $1 million a year to play a kid's game, a fun game, and that's what this game is, that he owes that to the fans, and he owes it to his teammates in the club, and he's going to pay it.
And Ken Griffey made his return in dramatic fashion this past Wednesday night with this home run against the Red Sox, one of his 2 hits in the game. But it was former Yankee Don Baylor who did the heavy damage 3-run double in the 9th, won it for Boston to cap off a 3-game sweep for the Red Sox. And winning pitcher Dennis Oil Can Boyd certainly enjoyed his visit to New York. Later on Wednesday night, Don Sutton became the 19th pitcher in Major League history to win 300 games. Sutton doing it against the Texas Rangers at one point. He retired 15 Rangers in a row, number 300 for Don Sutton. Then there was Charlie Huff of Texas with a heartbreaker. took a no-hitter into the ninth with one out. Pinch hitter Jack Howell with the fly ball. Here comes George Wright, and he drops it a day later. Wright traded to Montreal. And then Wally Joyner came through with a base hit to break up the no-hitter. Huff losing the no-hitter and the ball game. Orlando Mercado's second pass ball of the inning allowed Joyner to score as Huff failed to cover the plate. Texas lost 2-1. The most bizarre play of the week, successfully executed. Dave Bergman with the hidden ball trick, fooling Alan Wiggins. Another look, Bergman. And Wiggins went for it. That's when you try to pull in the schoolyard of the Sandlot, but just never works. And things have not been working well for the Cincinnati Reds this season, although the Reds did take a twilight doubleheader from the Braves last night, and Reds president Marge Schott has been under fire. Marge is with us from the studios of WLWT, our NBC affiliate in Cincinnati. Marge, first of all, thanks for joining us. Now, you took over management of the team in December of 1984. Things went well last year, but this season there's been unhappiness with you on the part of your 8 minority partners. Now, in 25 words or less, why and what was resolved at the meeting this past week?
Well, we went through what you might call what I consider not too fair reporting of all these so-called remarks but no names, and it was getting out of hand. And anyway, we had our 6-month meeting, so I called together the partners, and we headed out at my the lodge at my home. Then we went through different issues and seemed to resolve them. I guess I'm not used to partners, and maybe it was a matter of communications. You get so busy you don't, maybe communicate. But we resolved them, and all the partners want to get back to baseball. Although I think if we probably hadn't been in the bottom of the cellar and been playing #1, we'd all look like geniuses.
Marge, several of your partners are unhappy because they say you paid yourself a bonus and you decided not to disperse a 1985 profit. Instead, part of the money accrued was used to sell back one of your partnership units to yourself. I'm quoting the Wall Street Journal of June 6th. What's your reaction to their feelings?
Well, my reaction to their feelings, we have some partners that were in it before, and there's such a thing as you call tax losses, but I really feel we can't keep operating with so-called tax losses to the partners. I look at baseball as where we have to become financially responsible. And if we don't start doing that, and I think some of the other owners feel that way, we could kill the greatest thing in America, to me, which is baseball. And I look at this as a business and fairness to the fans. And when I came into this thing, it wasn't the greatest financial picture. In fact, it was very bad. And in a little over a year, we have turned this around, and I'm not ashamed of it. And now I feel the Reds are on a more secure financial basis. And I think that's business, and that's the name of the game.
All right, even your St. Bernard Shotzi has been criticized because she has been the focus of your marketing. How has Shotzi handled the criticism?
Well, she hasn't resigned yet, okay? But no, she's handled it very well. I mean, there are a lot of dog lovers in the world, and I think personally Shotzi's been a good image for the Reds. And I mean, in fact, she gets more mail than I do. How would you like that?
Yeah. Final question. Is this the finale last year for Pete Rose?
I think that has to be up to Pete. That decision, in fact, all the baseball decisions I really don't get into except okaying maybe the $1 million babies. But I think Pete is the type of person that'll know when he has to stop playing, and I really feel that will be his decision.
All right, Pete did come up with 3 hits in the second game of the twilight.
Wasn't that was dynamite last night. In fact, they said the team, for heaven's sake, start winning so they get off my back.
Marge, thanks for coming on the pregame show.
Well, it's been nice joining you.
Okay, Marge Schott, the principal owner of the Cincinnati Reds. We'll be back with a true Boston Red Sox fanatic, long-suffering, right after these words.
The tradition of it all. My dad swears he saw Babe Ruth point at a home run at Yankee Stadium, even though it's well known he did it in Chicago. My dad also claims to be the little boy Babe visited in the hospital before he hit the home run. That's right, Benny. I'm gonna hit it for you. Babe had to be great. I mean, the way he ran, did you ever notice? I think it's easy to play ball when you walk like this. Baseball.
And it was back in 1920 that the Boston Red Sox sold George Herman Babe Ruth to the Yankees in one of the more regrettable transactions in sports history. Now, this season, the Red Sox are off to a surprising strong start. But it's been a history of frustration for the Sox. Their last championship year was back in 1918. And along the way, they've had some of the most celebrated disappointments. In the 1946 World Series with Enos Slaughter on first, it was Harry Walker lashing one. This with 2 out of the 9th. Shortstop Johnny Pesky held up on the throw, and Slaughter scored all the way from first. Cardinals won 4-3, went on to take the series. In the 1978 playoff against the Yanks at Fenway, it was Bucky Dent connecting. A 3-run home run to wipe out the 2-0 Boston lead. Yankees go on to win and advance to the World Series. Vivid memories for Dick Flavin, a commentator at WBZ Television up in Boston, who personifies the die-hard Boston Red Sox fan, a man who has rooted and feared impending disaster. Dick, is this season another tease for staunch Boston Red Sox fans like yourself?
Marv, all I know is that I'm nervous. Whenever things are going well for the Red Sox, we fans know that they can only get worse. Yeah. And that's what's happened year after year, it seems. This team is cursed. It's something supernatural, I think. I don't know whether this Fenway Park is built over an old Indian burial ground and that the spirits are haunting us, or whether it's just God's way of keeping us humble after the basketball season every year, or whether the day we sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees, we also sold our souls to the devil. I have no idea, but it's got to be supernatural what happens every year.
Dick, of all the Red Sox disappointments down through the years, which has been the most severe?
Well, I have to talk about 1978, and I hate to do that. I break out in cold sweat when I think about the Red Sox having that 14.5 game lead over the Yankees and then end up losing it. That was the year some of us fans decided we'd like to change the name of the Red Sox to the Boston Stranglers in honor of another well-known choker from the area.
Is there a Boston player down through the years who best symbolizes the enigma of the Red Sox?
Yeah, we had a shortstop in the 50s named Don Budden, and Don Budden made all the tough plays. It was the easy ones that he never made. You know, they used to use his legs as a croquet wicket, I think. We had Dick Stewart out at first base, Dr. Strangeglove. He didn't make any of the plays. It was a great tradition here.
Now, you mentioned another favorite of yours, a pitcher who played for both the Yanks and Red Sox, Mike Torres.
Mike Torres, my theory is that in 1978, he was the one who threw the pitch to Bucky Dent, you know, for that home run. And I think he might have been a double agent because he had just come over from the Yankees the year before when he'd been a hero for the Yankees in the World Series in '77. But we're getting even now. We get Don Zimmer coaching third base for the Yankees. He waved Butch Winnegar around into a shore out the other night against the Red Sox.
Are Red Sox fans fair-minded?
Absolutely not.
On that note, we'll wrap it. Dick, thank you very much. Now, many of you will be seeing Dick Flavin's Boston Red Sox go up against the Baltimore Orioles here on NBC. That's coming up from Fenway. Roger Clemens aiming at 13-0. Some of you will see the Yankees and the Blue Jays from Toronto. Ron Guidry hoping to end his slide. I'm Marv Albert in New York. Let's go to the ballpark.
Roger Clemens was 20 years old when he became the winning pitcher in the final game of the College World Series as the University of Texas beat Alabama for the NCAA title. He has aged and come a long way in 3 years. Now for the Boston Red Sox, an incredible 12 victories and no defeats. Only this time, he's trying to lead his ball club to the World Series of them all.
National Broadcasting Company, now in its 6th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week.
Today from Fenway Park, the Baltimore Orioles versus the Boston Red Sox. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller High Life. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Brute, quality men's fragrance and toiletries. Brute, it smells like a man. And by United States Liberty Coins. Keep Liberty in mint condition with United States Liberty Coins. A beautiful summer's day in Boston, Massachusetts. And at storied Fenway Park, the Baltimore Orioles will start right-hander Ken Dixon, and the Boston Red Sox will lead with their ace, Roger Clemens. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Roger Clemens, 12-0. The Red Sox have won all 13 of his starts. The Red Sox are home. Clemens is the story.
And, you know, in a game like this, there's always a lot of feeling way before the game. And I mean by that, the Orioles have to be feeling over there, hey, they got their big guy going. We really got to bear down. And the Red Sox are saying if we can just get 2 runs, we'll probably win this game with Clemens pitching. So a lot going today.
Here in Boston, it seems like they're trying to shake themselves from Marley's ghost, which would be the 1978 season. Everybody kind of walking around on eggs, even though they're out in front. But they're out in front without Al Nipper and without Bruce Hurst, Sammy Stewart with a sore arm. And then last night, Mike Brown has hit on a shot off the elbow. And with all of their problems, the Sox are still out in front.
They are, and it's not a fluke. It's a good ball club. They're going to score a lot of runs. And when you look for the intangible, it seems to be Don Baylor. What a difference he has made in that clubhouse.
Especially since Tony Armas off to such a slow start, and the same for Dwight Evans. So there are a lot of stories here at Fenway Park. It's the place to tell them. Here's the way Baltimore stacks up offensively. Tom O'Malley, who had a big night last night at third base. Juan Beniquez in center field, and Jim Dwyer around and right. Eddie Murray in the cleanup spot at first. You have Cal Ripken at shortstop with a 16-game hitting streak, and Larry Sheets the DH. Mike Young in left field, Juan Bonilla at second base for Alan Wiggins, and Rick Dempsey behind the plate. And, of course, the major paragraph of the unwritten story on the mound, and that would be Roger Clemens. Clemens, 12 victories, no losses, 5-0 here at Fenway, 0-1 lifetime in one brief appearance against Baltimore. Interestingly enough, he has won 12 in a row. And when you go back in the records, back in 1901, Cy Young won 12 straight. And all of a sudden, you have those two names bracketed in the early going of 1986. Clemens is something else.
He really is. A great fastball. That's his main pitch. The amazing thing about a young fella who is a strikeout and a power pitcher is his ability to throw strikes. In that game when he struck out 20, he didn't walk a man, so we'll see a lot of strikes.
Well, there's a play on the initials of NBC. Nobody beats Clemens. We'll see. Naturally, he struck out 20, and with that 20, that gave him a tremendous boost, because Clemens is on a strikeout pace now to have the most in the American League since Nolan Ryan back in 1977. He might also become the first Red Sox pitcher since Jim Lonborg to lead the league in strikes, and that would be back in 1967 when Jim was a Cy Young winner. Talking about consecutive wins at the start of a year, here they are. Here are the fellas who have done them. Atlee Donald, Tom Zachary, Hooks Wiltsey at 12, Ron Guidry 13 with Brooks Lawrence. Then you have Dave McNally, Johnny Allen at 15, Elroy Face at 17, and Rube Marquardt of the Giants, the all-time start, 19-0.
Third base.
Well, we get the numbers all aside, turn a fresh page, and here we go with Tom O'Malley.
Here we go is right, and you'll see a pretty good fastball from Clemens.
O'Malley had one hit last year, coming up briefly to Baltimore. Last night, he had 5 RBIs in an unfamiliar leadoff role. Ball 1. Going into the game last night, Tom had 5 RBIs for the year, so he was rich in a hurry. That's in there. Dan Morrison is the plate umpire. Jim McKeon is at first. Al Clark at second. John Shulock at third. Fisted foul. He jammed him and fouled it off to the left.
With a fastball pitcher like Clemens, you're liable to see a lot of fly balls when he's not striking you out. He will be helped by the wind who's blowing in. The wind is blowing in, so it's going to be tough to drive one out of here. At least it's starting out that way. There's that good fastball. The grass is high, so you're going to have trouble shooting the ball through the infield.
Talking about the wind, Joe, the weatherman says it is 12 miles per hour, but gusting to 20 to 25 miles an hour, and it's unusually cool. It's only 65 degrees. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Tom O'Malley. Boy, as he opened up, Tom, no doubt, trying to get that right hip out of the way so he can counter the fastball of Clemens. So Tom O'Malley followed by Juan Benitez and then Jim Dwyer. Take a look at O'Malley. He would appear to be a different hitter than when we saw him with the Giants and that back foot.
Deep in the box.
And it didn't help. Strike 3 called. What a way to start the day.
Right on the outside corner, Gedman sets up that way. Look where Gedman is setting up, and watch that ball just about hit that target. He's going to be very close to it. Hardly had to move his glove. You're going to see that all afternoon. Gedman says, when I put that glove there, chances are he's going to be in the area. And I think he means the area of the glove, which is a very small area.
That's the speed gun on that strike 3. And now here's Juan Benitez. Clemens, if you have never seen him before, you suddenly realize he's a big fella. Clemens is 6'4" and checks in at 215 as he works on Juan Benitez. High twisting foul, and the wind will blow that well back out of play.
It's a pretty good indication on the advanced scouting and Clemens' speed when you look at where center fielder Tony Armas is playing. He's shading in right center field, and there you see, look how far the right field side of second base he is. Gap in left center field, but they don't think Benitez can pull him.
No balls, 2 strikes. Got him. I'll tell you what, that pitch was really hurrying to the plate. You talk about a fastball that takes off. Watch this.
And look where he's setting up once again. That's 95 miles an hour. And that'd have been a call strike if he didn't go for it.
So with 2 down in the first inning, Jim Dwyer checking in. Dwyer with good numbers, a .309 batting average. And he promptly hits a fly ball to right. Evans started in. Sunglasses down and makes the play. So Clemens sets him down in order, strikes out 2, and this baby's underway. No score.
Boys and girls, we call your attention. Number 17. Leading off for the Red Sox.
Here are the Sox with Marty Barrett and Ed Romero, followed by Bill Buckner and Jim Rice in left. Don Baylor, the DH, Dwight Evans in right. Tony Armas has come alive again back in center field. Rich Gedman behind the plate. Ray Quinones at short. And on the mound, Ken Dixon. Dixon is 6-4, 1-1 lifetime with the Sox. And he has had a bad time with the home run ball. He has given up 21 home runs. So he must have been the happiest guy in town when he saw the wind blowing in here at Fenway.
The explanation that Weaver and his coaches have for that is that he gets ahead of him and then he goes to a spot. And when he throws to that spot, he doesn't have the good stuff on it that he had to get there.
No balls and 1 strike to Marty Barrett. Fouled away. There is some concern, too, on the Baltimore club that maybe he's tipping his pitches, especially with the glove and with his hands. Well, the boys in the dugout are watching his every move.
Well, with Bodeker's experience last year, they thought he was tipping his pitches. Some ball clubs said they were reading it. I would imagine they would be worried about that.
0-2. And down he goes. So turnabout is fair play. And Ken Dixon strikes out Marty Barrett.
Number 7. And Romero.
Here's that strikeout pitch. It's looked like a curveball. It was. He's got a hard curveball, and he throws a little bit of a slow curveball to try to help that fastball change in speeds because he was getting in a pattern where everything was the same speed. Hitters can catch up to that.
Here's Ed Romero. You talk about a big pair of shoes to fill. Romero playing for the absent Wade Boggs. And, of course, all of us send our deepest sympathy to the Boggs family. Eddie hitting .218. Hit it off the end of the bat under the glove of Nixon. He should have made the play, and the throw is too late. But Dixon should have handled that one.
He just kind of flagged it. He gave it the Olay, and that was a good example of how high the grass is. It really slows up now.
That's a hit.
Bonilla, hey, I got to believe. Let's watch it once again.
Bill Buckner, first base.
Under the glove. Now it's slowed down considerably. Bonilla barehands it. Got to call him out if I'm umpiring from the television set.
Yeah, he was throwing with the wind.
He got the wind behind him, and he got him, but he was called safe.
Here's Bill Buckner now. Buck with 8 home runs. Ball 1, 1-0. So Ken Dixon allows one to get under his glove. We're in the bottom of the first inning, just starting in. We've just broken the seal on this one. The Orioles and the Red Sox. And look at Buck's numbers. He's particularly dangerous right now. He's had 3 in his last 6 home games, including one last night. Dixon keeping an eye on Ed Romero. That's one thing that jolts you when you look at the Boston Red Sox stats. They are not a running club at all. They've only stolen 14 bases. That's all, 14.
He's got a combination that he can start, and I asked McNamara before the game. He says he likes to do it to break up the double play, but just to start steal plays and hit and run plays, especially in this ballpark in the middle of that lineup, it's not a good percentage play.
Missed outside. It's interesting that when Bill Buckner was a rookie in the Dodger organization, Ted Williams once predicted that he would lead the league in hitting. And the baseball years go by, and here he is in Ted's town. Struggling, however. At 237 is certainly not like him. He's a lifetime 295 hitter. And in a sense, I guess you could say Buckner's career, he has been overlooked. Imagine he has more than 2,300 hits in his career, and he's only been on 1 all-star squad. In there. 2 balls and 1 strike.
The routine that he goes through before the game to get ready, I mean, the stretching, as we look at John McNamara flashing to third base coach Lachman, Buckner really has to loosen himself up. He's had all kinds of injuries, and it's his legs, it's his back, it's this, that, and the other thing, and I tell you, it's like a 2-hour ritual he has to go through.
And a lot of the players, his teammates, are really impressed with the fact that he plays so much in pain. He needs all the baling wire he can get. Buck is 36. He'll be 37 in December. Foul tipped. 2-2. We saw John McNamara. There's a little bridge between McNamara and Weaver. John McNamara and Earl Weaver were teammates briefly in spring training at Houston years and years ago in the early 50s, and they managed against each other in the old Eastern League. In fact, McNamara told a great story about Earl Weaver. We were talking about Weaver's short fuse. And he was talking about, I think it was Elmira and Binghamton when they managed against each other. Time out. There's something loose down in the left field corner.
Beach ball. It's become beach ball country.
John said that there was a play at third base, and Weaver lost the decision at third. Now, this is in his early days as a manager, right? He came out of the dugout, argued, lost the argument, bent down, got thrown out of the game, so he ripped the third base bag out of the ground and brought it back into the dressing room with him. They didn't have a third base. So he's one of the few managers who has stolen third base.
And kept it.
Yeah, how about those numbers? He's been ejected, among other times, in spring training. He was kicked out once in the '69 World Series. He's been suspended 6 times, and he has been kicked out twice in 2 doubleheaders. That's Earl Weaver. Otherwise, you'd never know he's in the ballpark.
One of these days, he'll play an old-timers game and get kicked out of that. And that'll really complete the cycle.
That's right. 2-2 the count. Bill Buckner, Ed Romero at first, 1 out in the first inning, no score. We're just starting out. Line drive, foul. And it's a full house here at Fenway on a crackling day in Boston.
You see the influence of Charlie Lau, the late Charlie Lau, the hitting instructor with these Red Sox, because Walt Riniak, the hitting instructor, is a Charlie Lau disciple. With Buckner, watch his timing device with the bat. He'll hold it in his right hand towards the pitcher, And then you'll see the weight shift to the back. There it is. Back he goes.
2-2. Another one hammered foul down the right field line, out of play. By the way, it is a very interesting ballpark. It is only 302 feet down the right field line. It is 315 feet down the left field line. The so-called green monster, the left field wall, that's the deepest part, 420. The left field wall is 37 feet high. Fenway Park opened up in 1912. It's like you stepped into a time capsule, gone back to another time. Ground ball into right field, base hit. Romero had to hurdle it. The ball dies on the thick grass, and that means an extra base.
Was a perfect example of why outfielders have to bear down during fielding practice and even during batting practice. Check the height of that grass. Here is Buckner's swing. One of the reasons Romero wasn't running was to keep first base open, because he was going to try to pull that ball. He went down, got the low pitch, pulled it into right field, and that grass, a bit high, slowed it down to where Romero made it to third base easily. A lot of things you check. I mean, you can check the flag blowing in, but you're not worried about how much it's gusting, but where you will play with that wind blowing in, how deep and how hard you will charge, depending on the size and the height of that grass.
Well, here is Jim Rice with first and third and one out in the first inning. Ball one. Rice finding Buckner standing at first and Romero at third. Jim has hit in 13 straight here at Fenway, but would you believe he hasn't hit a home run here since May the 3rd? That's a long time for the big guy to go dry. High pop fly on the right side. The wind is playing with it. Going out is Bonilla in foul ground. And he'll run the ball back to the infield. So Rice fouling out to Bonilla. And with two down, the batter is the designated hitter, Don Baylor.
Don Baylor, the designated hitter.
Baylor, who came to Boston, of course, in the deal that sent Mike Easler to the Yankees. And Baylor putting big numbers up with his 15 home runs and 47 runs batted in. So 2 on, 2 out. First inning, no score. Breaking ball for a strike. 0-1.
He really takes that inside part of the plate away from you, and that's why he gets hit so much. Right on top of that plate, and you can see Dempsey right on that outside corner, but they got to move him back.
0-1. High foul out of play with the wind blowing that thing out of the ballpark, and the count 0-2.
Now, this is the interesting pitch right here. If indeed you're going to come with the fastball inside to move him back, you better have something on it. You just can't say I'm going to go with a high-tight fastball, because he's strong enough to muscle it.
Romero at third, Buckner at first with 2 out. Dempsey hanging on the outside part of the plate. He hit his glove anyway.
Way outside. He was going to make sure that if he missed with that fastball, he wasn't going to miss over the plate. That's how you get those home runs hit against you. Dempsey was actually out of the strike zone. It's a real cat and mouse battle going on right here. Let's see how they go.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Don Baylor. High foul out of play.
It doesn't look like they're going to come inside at all. No. Every pitch has been to the outside part of the plate, so Baylor has taken away the inside part of the plate, and they're letting him have it.
Romero at third, Buckner at first. Of course, Baylor always crowds the plate. That's why he's second in being hit by pitches. He's been hit 207 times. That's an American League record. Gets hit about once every 21 at-bats.
Looks like he motioned it inside.
1-2.
Here it comes. Oh, he crossed him up.
It's a breaking ball. It's missed. The run scores, and everybody's safe.
He crossed him up, then. We could see it from, he was motioning inside, and you could see him moving over inside, and he threw a breaking ball.
And boy, did he throw a breaking ball. Dempsey, watch him.
Look where he is. Now watch. He's waiting for the ball. Now all of a sudden he sees it out there, and there's no way he can get to it. It was the one pitch he was going to come inside with, and he got crossed up.
So So a strikeout on a wild pitch. The run is in.
Now batting. Dwight
So
Evans.
it shows you when you're going, as they say, going good or going bad. Roger Clemens strikes out 2 in the first inning, and it's ho-hum. Ken Dixon strikes out 2. There's a run in, 2 men on base, and the batter is Dwight Evans. Evans with his 7 home runs, always a threat, particularly here. Foul back, good fastball.
I tell you, when that happens to you behind the plate, for about 2-3 hitters, you're just a little bit timid.
You think he's steaming a little too?
Well, he's steaming, but he's wondering, is he going to throw it here? Is he going to throw the pitch I'm calling for? You're kind of catching, standing on eggs.
Bill Buckner standing at second. Don Baylor, who struck out, standing at first. A run over, and it's 1-0 Boston, and what certainly appeared to be a cross-up. Breaking ball on the inside corner.
When you talk to Dwight Evans about hitting, the key to his hitting, he makes it pretty simple, but he has to concentrate so hard, is that left shoulder. He says, I have to go towards the ball. If I move too soon and open up, I'm in trouble. I have to concentrate on going straight at the ball with that left shoulder, not opening up.
In looking at the Red Sox against Baltimore, not too many really big numbers. Jim Rice has had the biggest times against Baltimore pitching down through the years. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count at Dwight Evans. Tony Armas on deck. Baylor at first, Buckner at second. 2 out. 1-0 Boston. Red Sox leading the Yankees by 6, Baltimore by 7. Line down the left field line, and it's a foul ball. Boy, was that cutting it close.
A matter of inches. John Shulock, the third base umpire, right there.
See just how close it was.
Man, that was close. Just didn't miss it. I find watching Dwight Evans interesting, Vin, because he's made himself a good hitter, and everything that he does, watch how he just kind of rocks. He just can't stand there, and everything tells him to stay in there, and go straight at that ball. Every move is telling him something. It's a message to his brain to say, keep that shoulder in there.
He's gone to a much lighter bat, too. He's swinging one somewhere around 32, 33 inches. He used to swing one that was up to 37 ounces.
He and Riniak have really worked closely together, and it's a matter of getting that weight on that back foot.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Dwight. He's doing a toe dance with that left foot. He has that heel way off the ground.
Well, what he's trying to do is to keep that shoulder in there, and he's got to get that weight back, and he can only do it so long, and then like a base runner, if you hold that ball, you take all the starch out of him.
Look at that foot. Now, the longer Dixon holds it, the longer he's on his toe. The 1-2 pitch. Squirted. Foul. Well, they'll try it again. Buckner goes back to second and Baylor to first. If you joined us late, Roger Clemens struck out O'Malley, and Benitez got Dwyer on a fly ball. Barrett struck out. Romero got an infield single on a ball Dixon should have fielded. Buckner singled to right, and Romero took the extra base when the ball died on the grass. Rice fouled out, and then Baylor struck out where it appeared Dempsey was crossed up. It was ruled a wild pitch and a strikeout, and Romero scored. And you're up to date, 1-0. Dixon has made 24 pitches here in the first inning. He's certainly not going to be around very long at this rate. 1-2 to Dwight Evans. High drive heading for the monster in left field, and this one is on top of it and gone. Boy, what an inning, and Earl Weaver out to the mound. It is really a crusher for Dixon, the little things that went wrong.
What I'm sure Weaver's upset about, we're talking about it before the game, when he gives up the home run, he's usually ahead of the hitter. He was 1 ball and 2 strikes. And then they go over the hitters in the meeting, and maybe the youngster is concentrating so much as to where to put the ball that he takes good stuff off the ball, and therefore, even though it's in the right spot, it doesn't have the good stuff on it, and boom, it's gone. And there you see it.
He got a fastball around the knees, and for Evans, that's his 19th home run against Baltimore in his career. 11 of them hit right here in front of the home folks. For Dixon, he has now given up 22 home runs. Of course, he has good company. Bert Blyleven and Jack Morris have given up 23.
And if you think he wasn't shaken up, he started to pitch off the stretch with nobody on.
Tony Armas, 0-1. 2 plays will haunt him now. One, the little ground ball that Romero hit that he should have fielded. And, of course, crossing up Dempsey, we believe, with the breaking ball away, so that when Baylor strikes out for what should have been the 3rd out and no runs, it's now a 4-run inning.
He's got to do a little more of that, too, in this ballpark. You just can't say you want the inside part of plate, you can have it.
It's almost too late, although not in this ballpark.
This ballpark, we were talking about it earlier today, like the old Polo Grounds at Ebbets Field, there is no lead that's safe. You start sitting on a lead here, and you're going to find yourself in the L column.
The big home run hitting ballparks are almost always in the American League. So it is 4 runs, 3 hits, and the biggest single play of the inning, a strikeout, and the man who got away. 2-2.
That's a pretty good curveball right there.
Another thing about Baltimore, they've been hit over the head. You know, when they lost 9 of 11, they won 11 straight games where the opposition scored first. Well, not this time. They finally broke it last night, but they're back in a hole again, and Dwight Evans can go to his position, accept the plaudits of the crowd. 4-0 Boston. We mentioned earlier that Fenway Park opened up in 1912. They are the 4 Dowager Queens in the big leagues. Comiskey Park 1910, Fenway and Tiger Stadium 1912, and Wrigley Field 1916. What comes as a shock to show you how the years pass and the changes. You see Wrigley Field 1916, the 2nd oldest park in the National League, Candlestick Park in San Francisco.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh. That's a jolt.
It is.
Talking about a jolt, that's the Baltimore bench, and what a jolt it received. Ken Dixon, all he did was strike out 3, and it didn't help him at all because 1 of the 3 got away, and it turned it into a 4-run inning. And it is 4-0 Sox. It'll be Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken, and Larry Sheets, and Roger Clemens on the mound. Clemens struck out 2 in the first inning. Eddie Murray, as usual, most valuable player, knocking in runs. He has 31 RBIs in his last 32 games. However, he only has 2 home runs in a month.
You could hear that one hit that glove, and that's not a Poppers model that Gedman has back there. He really cut that one loose.
1 ball and 1 strike, Eddie Murray. Rich Gedman behind the plate. Buckner, Barrett, Quinones, and Romero on the infield. Rice, Armas, and Evans in the outfield. On the hands, roll to the right side to Marty Barrett.
I asked John McNamara, I said, John, how good a pitcher is Clemens? And he didn't hesitate and simply said, when he crosses the foul line, it's a potential no-hitter.
Yeah, I haven't heard that since Koufax. One thing, John said he reminds him of Tom Seaver as we look at his delivery. He has that big kick, and when he first came up, runners took off after him. But look at this. That's where you think of Seaver. That's the perfect follow-through in the back.
And push off. When he pushes off, he comes right towards you and really follows through, bends into the pitch.
Cal Ripken with a 16-game hitting streak and a strike, 0-1. Strike. For Baltimore, it has been a noisy year already, and we're not just talking about the fact that Earl Weaver was kicked out twice in an 8-game span. Something's always going on with the Orioles. Ball 2. Alan Wiggins, one night, Detroit pulled a hidden ball trick on him, and the next night he made 3 errors, and somehow they got their signals crossed, and they were playing a game on Diamond Vision in Baltimore. You know, who is this player type thing, showing little jigsaw pieces of a face. And don't you know, after he had just committed 3 errors, it was Alan Wiggins' face that came up on the Diamond Vision screen. The crowd booed like crazy, and Wiggins went wild. I mean, he flipped his wig. And Earl Weaver had a quote. He was annoyed over Wiggins' outburst, although he understood about the Diamond Vision. 2-2. Ground ball to shortstop, and Quinones there, and Ray gets him 2 down. Anyway, Earl Weaver was annoyed with Wiggins' play, and he said, "Remember Mike Cuellar?" He said, "I gave Mike Cuellar more chances than my first wife." He said, "I've given Alan Wiggins more chances than Mike Cuellar." So I don't know whether we're going to see Alan Wiggins play for Baltimore or not anymore.
He's going to have to get him in that lineup. He needs that speed up there.
Here's Larry Sheets. 0-1. He's got impressive numbers. Sheets, the DH. 3rd highest among the regular DHs. And he's followed by Mike Young. 4-0 Boston, 2nd inning. 1-1. The O's have been on a roller coaster. They were 0-4. Then they lost 9 out of 11. Then bounced back last night. Baltimore wanted to send this game along with their best wishes to hitting coach Terry Crowley, who's in Bluefield. Terry Jr. is making his debut today.
Little Neil coming here.
Yeah, they said after 20 hits last night to tell Terry, take your time. Don't hurry back.
Don't give your son any advice.
Little Nubber could be trouble. Clemens backhand sets, throws on a bounce. Got him. Fine play by Roger Clemens, and at the other end, old aches and pains Billy Buckner stayed with it to make the play. Watch Sheets try and leg it out, and Roger will get him.
Throws off balance, but Buckner really makes a good play. Watch this.
And at the end of an inning and a half, Red Sox 4, Orioles 0.
Here's the replay on that great play by Clemens, but look at Buckner. Good play by Buckner. And Jim McKeon has had 2 tough plays down there as the umpire. That was a tough call.
Rich Gedman will lead it off. Just fouled a pitch off. He'll be followed by Ray Quinones and then Marty Barrett. Getty with 4 home runs, and he is leading American League catchers with that .262 batting average. This is a different Red Sox team, and even in the face of adversity, it has reigned atop the teep, which has been quite something. When you realize that they had Bruce Hurst go out with a groin pull on the 1st of June, and he won't be back for at least a week or so. Al Nipper, you remember, the May 19th was spiked at the plate by Larry Parrish. He's probably a week away. Sammy Stewart with a tightness and a sore arm, he's a week to 10 days away. Of course, Wes Gardner got hurt in spring training. Glenn Hoffman, the regular shortstop, with a minor cardiac problem, and he's out. And yet, with Armas struggling with the bat, Dwight Evans struggling with the bat, they're in front by 6.
When he came inside with that pitch to Gedman, you can see Gedman still trying to stretch. I don't think that Rich expected that ball in there, and it was a bit awkward for him to get out of there, and he had to take a little bit of time to get himself put together.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Fouled off to the left and out of play. You know, years ago, in looking over the Boston Red Sox, the fans selected the all-time Boston Red Sox team. And when they got to pitchers, it really summed up what Boston had done over the years. You know who their pitchers were? Babe Ruth and Cy Young.
Hey, two pretty good pitchers.
Yeah, but what it meant, too, was that for over the years, this town, this ballpark, was never really known for great pitching, which is one reason why there have been so many frustrating years. But this year, they're the only team in baseball where the starting rotation is homegrown. I mean, this organization has changed considerably from the teams that ran out of gas for one reason or another after July. Well, I don't know what Dixon has to do. He has struck out 4 in trying to get 5 outs.
He let up on that pitch. It was an off-speed pitch. And with 2 strikes, Gedman's going to try to protect that plate. And just doesn't get it. You know, when you build a ball club, though, you build it for your ballpark. And if you were going to build for Fenway, you'd have to build hitting.
Oh, sure. But just think of the kids now have come out of the organization. Roger Clemens, Bruce Hurst, Oil Can Boyd, Al Nipper, Mike Brown. And then when they got in trouble, they recall Woodward and Sellers. And, of course, they also brought along John Tudor and Bobby Ojeda. So pitchers have started to come off the farm. And the Red Sox are moving in the right direction. Boy, what a year this could be. What a year.
For Boston.
High fly ball up in the wind, however. Benitez and Young, and it'll be Benitez. 2 down. Now let's just figure out what year it can be. Well, the New England Patriots, they go into the Super Bowl. The Boston Celtics win the NBA title. Now just imagine if the Red Sox get into the playoffs in the World Series. Then what you do is you get Doug Flutie to throw out the first ball in the World Series here at Fenway. And you've got yourself a year in Boston. Not since the Tea Party. Here's Marty Barrett, struck out in the first inning. Oh, good breaking ball, 0-1. Marty Barrett, in his young career, has worn out Baltimore pitching. He's hitting .326 lifetime against them. Foul back. Red Sox got a big 4 in the first inning. The third out was Baylor, who struck out on a breaking ball that went to the screen when it appeared that Rick Dempsey was crossed up. That scored Romero. That gave Dwight Evans an at-bat he should not have had, and he hit a 3-run home run. So despite striking out 3 in the first inning, Dixon gave up 4 runs because he had to get the 4th out, so to speak. 0-2. Pop fly to right, and Jim Dwyer is there, and that's that. So at the end of 2, it is 4-0 Red Sox, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Number 43.
Those numbers are numbers of a great pitcher. Better than 3-to-1 ratio of strikes to balls. Do a whole game in under 100 pitches. But we'll see. In the third inning, Mike Young, Juan Bonilla, and then Rick Dempsey. I was asking John McNamara, an old catcher, and therefore I will ask you, old friend, on a drive into left center field, Tony Armas is there, 1 away. There have been some people, for instance, who look at Dwight Gooden in the National League and they say, you know what, he's thrown too many curveballs. And then there'll be somebody else say, well, sure, because Gary Carter always calls for a lot of curveballs because he doesn't like to hit curves and he immediately calls for what gets him out. This is what some players say. Then somebody else will say, well, if a catcher likes to throw a lot, his ego will make him call for a lot of fastballs so he can really gun that ball around. So I asked John McNamara, I said, do you have a problem with Gedman? Does he just kind of sit back there and call for smoke all day? And he said, no problem at all. He just catches Clemens or whoever it is. What about you? Would you scout catchers when you played?
Oh, sure. You're always looking at catchers. Catchers fall into a pattern. There's no question about that. I don't agree with a lot of the things that I just heard. But,
oh, sure.
But there are a lot of catchers. You put a base runner on, he won't go to the curveball. Well, you can steal signs from a catcher from his pattern.
1 ball, no strikes. Ground ball to the hole and through into right field for a base hit. So Juan Bonilla singles to right. It was Bonilla who hit the shot last night that hit pitcher Mike Brown on the elbow. And they really won't know much about Brown for another day or so. It is swollen and it is bruised. But he would join another list of the injured. Of course, Baltimore has had its problem. They've had 4 pitchers on the DL, the latest one to come off. is Mike Flanagan. Floyd Rayford started off with a chip bone in his thumb in spring training, and as Earl Weaver says, it was my fault. I needed him so desperately to catch and play third on a 24-man team that I rushed him back, and he wasn't ready to play, and he lost his stroke, and he volunteered to go to Rochester to get his stroke back. Then his shortstop, Jackie Gutierrez, he came up with chicken pox, and they had to send him out to rehab, and he's about ready to come back. And Freddie Lynn just went on the DL with a bad foot, a right ankle, and a sore wrist, and laryngitis, so they've had their problems too. That's in there. 0-2.
And Rayford, he's pretty valuable because sending him out, they had to bring up 2 players, an infielder and a catcher. He was doing both.
Right. He'll be back. It was nice, at least for Weaver, to say it's all my fault. I should never have rushed him, and I rushed him out of need. All right, Clemens pitching out of the stretch for the first time today with Bonilla at first and 1 out. 0-2. Check swing foul. Bonilla held on by Bill Buckner. Interesting how Baltimore hit the tubes after their strongest game. They beat the Yankees 18-9 and then turned around and lost 9 out of 11, including a 4-game sweep by Detroit to send them reeling into Boston, where they won last night. 1-2. 1-2 to Dempsey. Tom O'Malley on deck. Bonilla at first with 1 out in the third. 4-0 Boston.
This would be one of those pitches, Vin, that you would catalog if you were seated on the bench. He's ahead of the hitter, 1 ball, 2 strikes. What does he go to? And then you would see if a pattern develops. You would follow this throughout the game.
Well, let's see what Dempsey gets. He got a K.
It was a breaking ball, and so you would say to yourself, 1 ball, 2 strikes. He went for the curveball.
Tom O'Malley.
That off-speed little breaking ball was going 82 miles an hour. And, of course, it doesn't seem very slow, except you realize that he gets that fastball up to 95.
When you can change speeds and have the kind of fastball he has, I tell you that off-speed really gives that fastball that extra, superpower or whatever.
Here's Tom O'Malley. Takes ball 1. Clemens will throw that little split-finger job, which he'll throw as a change.
He doesn't have the confidence in it, though. When you talk to Gedman about it, he says, yeah, split finger, fork ball, whatever.
Yeah, when you can throw 95. High chopper coming over to handle it is Romero. Eddie has to hurry and got him on another good play by Buckner.
And another close play from McKeon.
Buckner's knees must be killing him. It's like an old folding chair. You put any pressure on it at all, and down it goes, and he holds on to the throw. So O'Malley is out, and at the end of 2.5, it is 4-0 Red Sox.
This is your opportunity to vote for.
The Red Sox are the only team in the American League with a lifetime edge against Baltimore, and they're edging them again 4-0 in the bottom of the third. Ed Romero followed by Bill Buckner and then Jim Rice. Romero an infield single in the first inning. That was part of the bizarre turn of events as far as Ken Dixon was concerned. Ed hit the ball back up the middle, but it wasn't hit hard. He hit it off the end of the bat, and Dixon should have fielded the ball but didn't. Ken Dixon with a record of 6-4, 1-1 lifetime. Fouled away. And in case you had the thought about the Mason-Dixon line, Ken Dixon last August pitched against Mike Mason in Baltimore.
Too bad it was against Law and Order.
Yeah. Well, Mason-Dixon, one of them went south. Fly ball to right field. 1 away. That'll bring up Bill Buckner.
Number 6.
Buck singled to right in the first inning, and when the ball died on the thick grass, Jim Dwyer had to come a long way to get it, and that gave Romero an extra 90 feet, and he moved into third. So he was in position to score on the strike 3 breaking ball that went to the screen against Baylor. All the little things that plagued Dixon in the first inning. His own inability to field a comebacker. He winds up striking out 3 men, and that's not good enough. And he gives up 4 runs. He is coming off a dreadful game last time out. Fouled away. His last game, he walked 9. But he tried to balance his books by striking out 8. Dixon working on Buckner with Jim Rice on deck. High twisting foul that will go out of play down in the left field corner. 1-2. A jam-packed crowd. They were selling standing room and obstructed view seats as well here. And the capacity is 33,500. And it is apparently filled to capacity. Another foul ball. What you have to understand about the American League, the teams play 78 games within their own division. But they play 84 games against the other division. And they usually play the 78 within their division, compressed between June and September. So for the last 2 weeks and the next 2 weeks, the big thing for the Red Sox staying within their division is not to be swept. A drive into right field and deep. Dwyer goes back on the track at the wall and holds it in. 2 down. The buck comes up a buck short, and not much more than that. It'll bring up Jim Rice. We can duck in a score or 3 along the way. The Yankees leading Toronto in the third, 1-0.
Left field, right.
Chicago leading the Mets 4-2 in the second inning. And Detroit and Milwaukee 1-1 in the third. Remember, too, in the American League, since there are 7 teams in each division, you can't play each other. There's a shirt tail hanging out. So you have to have a swing team. Cleveland swings with the West this year when the East is going head-to-head against the East. So it's a little unwieldy. And the schedule serves to the Red Sox advantage. Fly ball into right center. Benitez and Dwyer. It'll be Dwyer. So 3 fly balls, and Dwyer gets them all. And at the end of 3, the Red Sox 4 and Baltimore nothing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Red Sox in
Juan Benitez, Jim Dwyer, and then Eddie Murray. Roger Clemens leading 4-0. Slice down the right field line. Evans moving over in the corner. It's going to land foul. 0-1.
It's a tough right field because there's not a whole lot of room as you get down near that foul pole. I mean, the foul area, you can see how close it is. And the foul area where you can make the play is behind home plate, and that's not a whole lot of room. But both the right and the left field line, not a whole lot of room, foul territory.
When I come into Fenway Park, which is rarely, I can't help but thinking of that song, The Way We Were. You know, with Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, Crosley Field in Cincinnati,
Forbes Field,
Connie Mack Stadium,
Sportsman's Park.
Yeah. Fouled away. Well, Sportsman's Park would be the origin of the Baltimore Orioles. The O's are really the old St. Louis Browns.
St. Louis Browns. I remember that when they moved.
Yeah. Juan Benitez. Look at that road number. His top hitter on the road.
You ever seen a guy hit better and move around as much as Benitez?
You know who's a big Benitez fan? The manager had to see him go, Gene Mauch.
I'm a Benitez fan.
Yeah.
I can understand why he keeps getting traded.
Drive fly foul down the left field line, hooks upstairs.
And he can play a couple positions. He's played third base for Earl Weaver. He's broken his bat here, and he's played the outfield.
He was the most successful hitter in the American League in day games, too. For whatever reason, he seems to see the ball better.
Hey, Ben, you mentioned the St. Louis Browns. We got a minute here. Wonderful Ellis Clary, the scout, is here, and he was an old Brownie. I just have to give old Ellis a mention. He's here with Al Cuccinello, but I tell you, if you ever need a guy next to you to cheer you up, boy, Clary would be your man.
Absolutely.
He never has a bad day.
1-2, the count to Juan Benitez. 2-2. What was it? I'm pretty sure it's true. Somebody like Bob Breggett, in St. Louis, that when the Browns called it fini, the last game they played in Old Sportsman's Park, they had one ball left. That was cutting it close.
Really measuring it fine.
Whoa. You got a lot of umpires here. They're all looking strike. 3-2 the count. Look at this one, Joe.
Okay, let's be the umpire on this one. We got a television view of it. This close. I'd have to go with Morrison.
And Benitez gets his walk. That's only the second base runner, so for only the second time today, Clemens will be gone out of a stretch. Remember, he gave up the base hit to Bonilla in the third inning. So Jim Dwyer coming up with Benitez at first.
Number 9.
Dwyer doesn't usually start. He made a rare start last night, only the 9th, and he comes right back to start today. He's used primarily as a pinch hitter, and he's hit over 400 coming off the bench. Strike. Of course, they're shy Freddie Lynn, and as Earl Weaver was saying before the game, that's one reason why they went into that tailspin and lost 9 of 11. For Dwyer, in a sense, old times revisited. He played with the Red Sox in 1979 and in 1980. Benitez, he was here from 71 through 75, so old home week. After Dwyer comes Eddie Murray. We're in the 4th. 4 runs, 3 hits for the Red Sox. The big blow, a 3-run home run by Dwight Evans. Baltimore with just 1 hit, a single by Juan Bonilla. Ground foul. That's Jimmy Williams in the first base coaching box watching that go by. And over at third, Cal Ripken Sr.
I asked Weaver, when's the first time you saw Cal Ripken Jr.? He said his dad brought him out when he was 15 years old. And he said, you knew then he was a player.
1-2. And that's fisted into right field, base hit. And it's a chance for Benitez to keep on going with Evans' great arm. Dwyer's going to hold it first. So Dwyer was somewhat jammed, but he had a quick enough bat to muscle it into right field. And just like that, the O's have runners at first and third with nobody out.
Looks like on the inside part of the plate, you could see Dwyer was set up to pull that ball all the way. He had that gap between first and second, so he was going to play percentage. And it's first and third. They meet in the lineup up there, Murray, Ripken, and Sheets.
Well, they got a man who can get you right back in the ball game here. You talk about the high rent district. Eddie Murray battling Roger Clemens. First and third and nobody out. 4-0 Boston. And he was late on that, and it was not in the spot he was looking for.
And you could see when Gedman gave that sign, he put down 1 for fastball and hit that left knee, which meant to the outside part of the plate. They just went right to the heater. Here Eddie he goes again.
But see, now he looked like he was looking inside that first pitch, and that's what really fooled him. I guess location is even more important than whether you're looking at a fastball or a curveball.
As a batter, definitely. Same pitch.
Not going to drive that thing very far, hanging it out there.
No, sir. Now how he's going to work on him is going to be a little bit interesting.
Standing at third is Juan Benitez. Over at first, Jim Dwyer. Nobody out in the 4th. Baltimore trying to get back in the ball game. Clemens throwing in the 90s. A couple of times he got it up to 95.
4-1. Just going to show him that pitch. That's the pitch. He's no way he's going to let Murray hit that pitch.
Roger has struck out 3. He got the first 2 men, O'Malley and Beniquez. Then he got Dempsey in the 3rd inning. 1-2. Fake to third, a look at first.
You could see Clemens shake off a pitch, so he's got his mind made up as to what he wants to do with this one to Murray.
One of the highlights in this game of the leading American League home run hitters of the 80s, 3 of the 4 are in this game. Fouled away. You have Tony Armas, Eddie Murray, and Jim Rice. The 4th man, Reggie Jackson. On deck, waiting his turn, is Cal Ripken. One ball, 2 strikes. 2-2.
He wanted to go after him with that one inside and just sailed away. Expression on the bench, he overthrew that one.
Roger Clemens, 12-0, trying to get to 13 on the high road. 92.
Here's his pitch of decision right here. He wants it to happen.
And it's lined at short. No further play. Quinones right there to handle it. So Murray hits into tough luck and lines out to shortstop. 1 down. And they taunt a little bit with the Eddie. The batter now, Cal Ripken.
Fastball outside part of plate, and he really goes with it, hits it right on the fat part of that bat, but Quinones was right there. Can't hit it any better than that.
So with 1 away, runners at first and third, Cal Ripken with a 16-game hitting streak rolled to short in the 2nd inning. Ripken holds, I believe, the most interesting consecutive streak of any player now, not to malign Garvey's string or even the present one by Dale Murphy, but the innings. That's the thing that's awesome for Ripken. Ripken has started that in early June of 1982. Can you imagine? He's played every inning of every game since 1982. When he was playing, you know who were also playing? Carl Yastrzemski, Willie Stargell, Johnny Bench, Bobby Mercer, Ferguson Jenkins, and he's played every inning since. Foul tip.
Weaver calls him one of the best clutch hitters in all of baseball. He's got great confidence in Ripken with men in scoring position. That's a lot of innings.
Isn't that something? 6,000?
I mean, the great thing about that, there are no token 9-inning appearances.
Yeah, no pinch hit, walk out and say my streak's alive.
That's right.
1-1. Ground ball to the hole, through into left field. Beniquez scores, Dwyer to second, and it is 4-1 Boston.
So you talk to that Weaver, and he's got these guys, you can talk computers all you want, but he's got these guys measured like with Ripken hitting the clutch. I was talking about pitching around different guys. He said, well, it depends on the guy. He said, for example, he said, do you know that Ozzie against Baylor is 10 for 20? So I'll pitch to Rice because he doesn't hit him. And he just goes on and on like that, and he's just in a normal conversation. I mean, he doesn't whip any cards or computer printouts on you. And with Ripken, he just said he's a good clutch hitter. Boom, here it is.
Of course, he has a bunch of cards, but he leaves them back in the clubhouse. I think he says it costs us something like $7,000 or $8,000 to do this, but he said, I use it.
Oh, he does, and uses it well.
Here's Larry Sheets. And, of course, Sheets coming up there now represents a potential tying run. He was thrown out on that good play, Clemens to Buckner, in the 2nd inning. And, of course, he gets him even with one swing of the bat. You have to really watch him. Last year, he was the number 3 rookie in home runs in the majors. And he bangs it into right. Base hit. Dwyer will be stopped, and the bases are loaded. They don't run on Dwight Evans at all. And Mike Young will be coming up, and the bases are jammed with Dwyer, Ripken, and Sheets.
Here comes McNamara out to talk to his young right-hander. When Evans picked up that ball, Ripken held up his hands right now. He didn't want to take any chances, and it was a classic throw.
You know, one of the big things about Roger Clemens, and he certainly would be the American League's answer to a Dwight Gooden, they take the heat off other pitchers on the staff. Gooden makes it a little bit easier for Ron Darling and Sid Fernandez, and Clemens makes it a little easier for Boyd and Hurst because he's the stopper. They don't have the pressure of being the #1 pitcher. Well, the problem with the Sox right now, they've lost 3 in a row at home, counting last night. They look to Clemens as a stopper, and they give him 4 in the first inning. You can imagine the psychological effect if A, he blows a lead, and B, doesn't stop him, with the staff being hurt the way it is.
Oh, it's a big situation because they did exactly what they wanted to do, because I'm sure going into it, they said, hey, if we get 2-3 runs, we're going to win it. They get 4. They say, we got a lock. And, well, it's not a lock. Tying runs are on, and they've got a good hitter in the batter's box. So it is a big psychological moment right here for the Red Sox.
Steve Crawford is throwing back of him in the bullpen. You have to realize, too, about Clemens, he's given up 2 or less in 9 of his 13 starts. So if he is roughed up a little bit in the 4th inning, it will come as a shock here. Mike Young flied to center in the 3rd inning. Remember, 1 out, and that was a bullet hit by Murray right at Quinones. Went right after him inside part.
He's got to go after him for sure because he needs that strikeout. He needs to strike out at a ground ball, but the fly ball he doesn't want, the base hit certainly not. So he's going to go right after him.
Dwyer at 3rd, Ripken at 2nd, Sheets at 1st. 4-1 Boston, 4th inning, fouled away. 0-2. The crowd has lost its 2-strike enthusiasm. Suddenly, this crowd is not expecting the strikeout like they had early in the game. Now they're trying to will him over this hump. And, of course, a strikeout hitter at the plate. Mike Young, over 100 times last year. One away, so this is a big out, and Young backs out. On deck is Juan Bonilla, the second baseman. So it's a moment of truth for Roger Clemens. Got him. Off speed, too. If he was looking smoke, he didn't get it. It was clocked at only 72 miles an hour.
You can see it break. It's an off-speed curveball. It's the slow curveball. Now see it break right over, and all Young could do was watch it. He got ahead of him with the 2 good fastballs, and then stayed right with him and went after him.
4 strikeouts for Roger Clemens, and that'll bring up Juan Bonilla. And of course, Mike Young, it's head-shaking time for him, and all Earl Weaver can do is sit there and stare at him. Frank Robinson thinking of a big fish that just got off the hook. So here's Bonilla, who singled to right in the 3rd inning. Boy, he was moving that bat around. He had to be taken all the way. You couldn't move your back so much against a hitter who throws like Clemens.
Well, Bonilla is a guy who loops the bat, and you think the high fastball is going to get by him. Watch him loop that bat. That's just his natural swing. And when he does that, it's a classic thing. If he gets a base hit, it's a hitting mechanism, and if he strikes out, it's a hitch.
Well, he looped as Clemens was releasing the ball, and I thought, well, there's no way he can swing. 1-1 to count.
You have to really be quick to pull that trigger doing that.
Ball 2. 2-1. So the bases are loaded. Jim Dwyer at 3rd. Cal Ripken is at 2nd. Larry Sheets at 1st. 2 out. One of the 2 outs, remember, the line drive by Murray. So they've hit Clemens a bit here in the 4th.
His best pitch is his fastball. Bonilla's got to be sitting on that fastball right here. Can he hit it?
2-1. There it is. Chopper over the mound by second base. Fielded there by Barrett. He's out of the inning. So the O's let a big one get away. They settle for 1, and at the end of 3.5, 4-1 Red Sox. There's one of the great ones, Frank Robinson, elected to the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown in 1982, along with Henry Aaron, after being named on 89% of the ballots. Incredible player.
He and Don Baylor, Baylor going to lead it off, but that Robinson, it was Robinson who really took Baylor in tow. The first Kangaroo Court, Robinson was the judge, and Baylor was always getting fined. Now Baylor is actually, Dewey Evans kind of requested that they have the Kangaroo Court, and they have it, and Baylor keeps the book. But it was from Frank Robinson in Baltimore where the idea originally came from. It's constructive criticism in a fun way is what it is.
Only when you win. You only have the Kangaroo Court after a victory.
Yeah, boy, isn't it great to have Jim Rice as your sergeant at arms and Sammy Stewart as your bailiff for like a tag team match.
Don Baylor struck out in the first inning, and it's the biggest single play of the game, really. He struck out on what we think was a cross-up. Dempsey was looking inside. Instead, it was a breaking ball way down and away, and it went all the way to the backstop. Not only did it allow Ramiro to score, instead of being the third out of the inning, it allowed Dewey Evans to come up, and he hit a 3-run home run and turned it into a 4-run inning. Baylor, of course, had one of the sweetest hits, I guess, in his career when he doubled in the bases loaded in Yankee Stadium in a recent visit.
He's so well respected, Don Baylor. Earl Weaver was saying he's one of the good guys. Gene Mock says certain players it's a privilege to have on your ball club. Others it's a pleasure. Baylor, it's a privilege.
2-1. Ooh, almost got him on the knuckles.
He has to do that. He didn't do that the last time Baylor was up. Baylor's on top of that plate, and what Dixon was doing right there was asking for his half back is what he was doing. And you have to do that.
He's behind 3-1. Well, let's see. One thing for Dixon, and I would think it's a little dangerous in this ballpark, although the wind is blowing in, but he's starting to throw a lot of fly balls. In fact, the last 5 consecutive outs have been balls hit in the air, and 4 in a row have been fly balls to right field. Almost got him in on the hand, so he walks him. For a youngster who walked 9 his last time out, that's his first walk, and he walks Taylor, and that'll bring up Evans. Dwight Evans hit that 3-run home run in the first inning atop the monster in left center. He has 8 home runs, 34 RBIs. Boston 4, Baltimore 1. We're in the 4th inning. We'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ballgame. Off speed, got it on the corner. Now he's kind of living inside.
Well, he got away with that one. I don't think that Evans, for one thing, thought it was a strike, and secondly, he didn't think that he would throw that off-speed pitch inside. That's a danger zone.
No balls and 1 strike. Wind swirling a little dust particles around home plate. And another spinner in there for a strike.
That was in a pretty good spot, low and outside. Now with the 2 quick strikes, it'll be interesting to see where he goes with this one, because he's in command right now, Dixon is.
Dixon has 4 strikeouts, the same number as Roger Clemens. Got him.
Stayed with a breaking ball, man.
Yeah, so that's 5 strikeouts, giving him 3 in a row to take care of Evans.
Get a good look at it. Look at Dempsey's target. See it break down almost like it was a palm ball, or it was something off speed, definitely.
Tony Armas, he struck out in the first inning. Armas with a little 5-game hitting streak, but it has been impressive in the sense he's hit over 500 during the stretch. 4-1, 1-0. Armas with only 1 home run this year and 9 RBIs, way out in front of it. Last year on June the 21st, Tony Armas had 14 home runs. He's not only off the pace, he's off the track. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out. Baylor at first. We're in the bottom of the 4th. Red Sox leading 4-1. And another good breaking ball. He's really come upon that one now.
He has stayed away from the fastball this inning. Baylor got a couple of them, but they were out of the strike zone. Evans didn't get any fastballs. Armas has not seen a fastball yet.
1 ball, 2 strikes. There it is. And he was kind of sitting on it. Pulled the fastball foul. That's Rene Lachemann coaching at third. Walt Riniak coaching at first for the Sox. Baylor at first, 1 out, 4th inning. 4-1 Boston. And he goes with a breaking ball again, almost in the dirt. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Baylor, 10, 12 years ago, could really motor. In fact, he was a big running threat when he was with Baltimore in those days. 2-2. Tried to time that off-speed pitch. Boy, as they say, although it's grammatically incorrect, he was certainly trying to wait on that pitch.
He was trying to wait on it and drill on it.
And serve it. Talking about Baylor being a runner when he was with the O's. He led them in stolen bases 4 straight years. Ball 3.
Interesting now. What would you do? 3-2, 1 out. Baylor's at first. Armas is a strikeout man. Would you run him?
No.
I would.
Would you?
Yes. Because he hits a ground ball, it's a cinch. And Baylor might just get by, although Dempsey has a great arm. I would start him. You wouldn't.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
All right. 3-2. He's gone. And it's a wild pitch, so Baylor can keep on going if he picks it up. He's going to third. The throw is a bad throw. So Dempsey had him dead to rights if he makes a good throw to Tom O'Malley.
Wild pitch.
And breaking on the pitch, there goes Baylor. He's watching all the way to see what happens. He sees the ball get by Dempsey, and now he's going to dig. It looks like Dempsey's going to gun him down right here, but the throw is high. You talk about some breaks for the Boston Red Sox. Base on balls, wild pitches, and look what's happening.
So thanks to the second wild pitch served up by Ken Dixon, the Red Sox have runners at first and third with 1 out. They haven't hit the ball yet in the inning. Baylor walked, Evans struck out, and Armas walked. And it'll bring up Rich Gedman.
And in a spot like this, your pitching coach is just out there just to try to break the mood. That's all. There's no strategy involved here because it's got to be upsetting to whoever is pitching, whether he be young or old, and he just wants to break the mood is what he wants to do here.
Down in the bullpen, Nate Snell, the young right-hander, begins to loosen up back of Dixon.
Rich Gedman, the catcher.
And Rich Gedman, who struck out in the second, coming up. There's Nate. Time called for a moment again. Something loose down in the corner. We can't see what it is. Probably a beach ball. They pitched anyway.
Time.
I'll tell you what, Dan Morrison could have gotten killed.
Yeah, he's out of position there, and he called time, and nobody saw him.
Oh, wow. Remember when we saw the pitch out that got the plate umpire in the World Series?
Right.
Well, that
Barnett,
point,
yeah.
whoa, you talk about being naked under the world. He's minding his own business, calling time, and Baltimore didn't realize it. And thank goodness it was fouled away. Weaver's coming out saying, are you going to take a strike away from my pitcher?
He's going to argue, but he had called time, plenty of time. No way in the world. Oh, he had called time.
There's something down in the left field corner. 3 or 4 times they've had to call time because of it.
It was a banner. They just had him remove the banner. It was hanging over because there isn't a whole lot of room down there, and it certainly could hit over there. But Morrison had called time in plenty of time. This could even be a little bit more upsetting to Dixon. Make a pitch like that, and the run would not have been able to score. Now there's Baylor right there. You can see almost like he's saying, hey, time, and then the ball is And look where Morrison.
I'm telling you.
He called time, and he's standing right out there.
I couldn't believe it when Dixon pitched. Okay. No one's hurt. First and third, one out. And Gedman waiting with a 261 average. Off speed, not much on it, and very high.
Looking for the ground ball to get out of this. Gedman, not a very fast runner, and his fastball, he'll get the fly ball, and he's looking maybe something off speed to get him out in front and get the ground ball.
4-1 in favor of the Red Sox, trying to get some more. Fly ball into left field. Tagging up is Baylor. Mike Young, just off the track, will throw towards home. Why, that was no play at all. Why in the world he would throw in towards... It looked when he caught it as if he was saying, okay, I don't have a play at the plate, I'll just throw it into second. And then at the last minute, it was if, well, page 3 said I should throw home. Wow. You talk about... He couldn't do much about one run, Baylor, but he certainly allowed Armas to just cakewalk into second base. So it is 5-1 Boston. And the batter now is Ray Quinones. He flied to center in the second inning. We were talking about all the fly balls that Dixon gives up, living dangerously. Yet who would believe what has hurt him the most? A wild pitch on strike 3 and now a wild pitch on ball 4.
There's one run in, one man on. There's only been one official at bat in this inning.
Yep.
2 walks and the sacrifice fly.
Quinones hitting .237. And he hits a pop fly into shallow center. Might be trouble. Benitez makes the catch for the out. So Boston picks up a run, and at the end of 4, they lead 5-1. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Will Church, Bro.
Coming up next, the excitement of World Cup soccer continues. We'll take you to Guadalajara, Mexico for a quarterfinal match. The strong squad from Brazil, and they'll battle one of the top challengers, France. And be sure to stay with NBC Sports for world-class action as we take you all the way to the final showdown for soccer supremacy next Sunday.
Brazil and France, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd think that Brazil was the big favorite. That's a toss-up game. That's going to be a good one.
Rick Dempsey, Tom O'Malley, and Juan Benitez, a Baltimore team that has failed to execute. That's why they're in so much trouble. It's simply that. They have not been overmatched nor really out-hit. They've just made too many mistakes. You go back to the first inning, Dixon should have handled a ground ball by Romero and should have had the inning over when he struck out Baylor. Then in the 4th inning, Dempsey should certainly have thrown Baylor out trying to go to third.
That's about the way this game is going to be talked about. It's one of those shouldas and couldas, but it's going to be an ink game.
Which is all part of the game. That's the fun of it.
That's right.
Dempsey struck out in the 3rd inning. Big guy struck out 4. That must have been a thrill to be in the ballpark to watch him strike out 20 Seattle Mariners and no walks.
Oh, that to me is the incredible part of that whole situation.
2-2. Red Sox in the 5th inning. You know, another thing for the big guy, Clemens is fortunate. The Red Sox usually get him a lot of runs. High pop fly. The wind might play tricks with it, so nothing is settled. And here comes Evans, and here comes Barrett, and it's Marty Barrett just inside the foul line. Tough play.
17.
He and Buckner and Evans still looking at each other.
Tom O'Malley.
Bit of a high sky, and you can see he's battling it all the way. He's got a lot of room, knows that, and he's going to make sure he catches it and clamps on it.
Tom O'Malley knows all about tricky winds, having originally played at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Tom struck out and grounded out 0 for 2. Right. 0-1. Boy, what a name for a kid to be playing in Boston. O'Malley.
How about McNamara, the manager?
We're talking about Clemens and the fact that the Red Sox get him some runs. You know, they're averaging just under 7 runs a game for him in his 13 starts. And they've gotten him 5 so far today. He's trying to make his record 13-0. The last guy to go 13-0, Ron Guidry, in 1978. A year the Red Sox would just as soon forget. 1978. Mike Torres, Bucky Dent. It still hangs over the city. Ground ball to the right of Barrett, but Marty's on it. 2 down in the 5th inning.
It's a job to shoot one through that infield on the ground because that ball's going to be slowed down. That ball was hit sharply, but Barrett was able to get over there.
You know what's interesting? Each week we go to a different ballpark, and each week it seems we make the same comment that the infield grass is thick and that it's very hard. And then suddenly you think, outside of artificial turf, is there a fast infield of natural infield in the major leagues? Pop fly. Let's see about Barrett. He'll do a little dance.
Surrounded that.
So Marty gets them all. He handles 2 windblown pop flies and a ground ball. And at the end of 4.5, it's 5-1 Boston. Mike McNamara, John McNamara's young son, officer in the United States Marine Corps. A GI issue haircut.
He got the Marine hairstylist to work on it with a tire iron or something.
John and the apple of his eye just to the left of the dugout, and young Mike.
A close crop there.
High pop fly. It'll be Eddie Murray. Marty Barrett didn't know where to go. He didn't want to interfere, and he was making an S-turn about 20 feet up along first base. And Ed Romero, the batter. You know, in talking before about the fact that the Orioles are down 5-1 because of their inability to execute, it's also a thought Dixon has not pitched that badly at all. But he did give up the crusher, the 3-run home run to Evans. 5 runs, 3 hits for Boston. 1 run, 4 hits for Baltimore. And that's popped up. On the left side, Ripken and O'Malley. And it will be Ripken, the senior member.
Earl Weaver was talking about Dixon. He says he averages about 89 miles an hour on that fastball. So, I mean, he's not a junk ball pitcher by any means. And they were teaching him that slow up on his curveball just to give him another pitch. And as you pointed out, Vin, he gets a lot of fly balls, so there's pretty good movement on that fastball when that happens.
And he doesn't care if the infield is slow. He hadn't had a ball hit on the ground. That is for an out. He's only made, well, let's see. He's made 80 pitches. He has settled down considerably since the first inning. Bill Buckner, single to right, flied to right. Rode home on the home run by Dwight Evans. Two years ago, Buckner had one of the biggest days he's ever enjoyed in the big leagues, a 5-hit game, and he did it against Baltimore. Billy Buck's hitting only .239. He and Evans really struggling in the early going. He out in front of that change. Oh, what a great pitch that was.
He really had him fooled.
That's why Buckner jumped away from home plate. He couldn't believe it.
You could really see the shift of the weight, and there comes the ball. And those legs, I tell you, when he swings or reaches, he just unfolds.
Yeah, and he lifts a fly ball to left field. Mike Young on the track makes the play. So another fly ball, but another out, and we've got 5 innings in the books, and it remains 5-1 Boston. A moment moment ago making the point about the slow infields, and if you throw out the artificial turf, everywhere we go it's a slow infield, so you wonder if there's even a fast infield in baseball naturally.
Well, you could almost scout the grass and know the infield. You know Wrigley Field, they had to protect that left side. Dodger Stadium the same way. Here they don't have gazelles, so the artificial surface, there's nothing they can do, but the grass, the groundskeeper can help you.
One of the fastest infields, I guess, years ago in the 60s at Dodger Stadium, Maury Will's heyday, when they rolled it to make sure that it was down and out.
Make it like Indianapolis.
Number 9, Jim Dwyer. Right field, Dwyer.
Fenway Park in Boston. And we'll have Jim Dwyer, followed by Eddie Murray, and then Cal Ripken. Dwyer flied to right, single to right. Ball 1.
I was wondering if they tried to bunt on Clemens, but with that fastball, you can see why they don't. But he really doesn't have to worry about being a fielder with the 95, 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
Romero right on the edge of the grass, not really taking a bunt threat seriously, and the right side of the infield is deep, and there it is. I'll play with you if you help me find my ball.
That's right. 2-3 infielders lost in there.
Popped in the air, foul behind the plate. Getty has a look and comes back to the screen. It's out of play. 2-1. The multi-purpose stadium in the National and the American League. The multi-purpose stadium is antiseptically perfect, I guess, but colorless, really. When you come to a throwback stadium like Fenway Park, it's just something special. It really is a thrill to be here. Back.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think maybe because when you were a kid, you heard about Fenway Park and Wrigley Field and all that, and it's still here. The new ballparks I love, but it's almost like General Hospital. You expect somebody to say, Dr. Vin Scully, report to surgery.
That's right.
It's so sterile.
High fly ball into left center. Armas and Rice converging. Armas calling. He's the captain out there. One away in the 6th inning. They'll bring up Eddie Murray, who grounded out, and then in the 4th inning, after 3 singles and a walk, showed you that Clemens was a little wobbly. Right in the middle of the inning, Murray hit a bullet, but right at Ray Quinones at shortstop. The clock on that. I guess you can get to a stage where you are guessing fastball and you can be out in front on even a good fastball. See if we get the clocking on that. That's 90 and he was out in front of it.
Well, he just came off that bench looking for the fastball and just started early.
That was the off-speed pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike.
I bet that was in the 80s.
Yeah, we'll see. 89.
Oh.
Some off-speed. 5-1 Boston, 6th inning.
Now that had some zip to it.
Did you see where Dave Righetti got a little ticked off last night? Gave up the slam and threw a ball out of the stadium. A little smoke on that one. Ball 3.
And I'll bet you some scout had a clock on it.
You know, we were talking about that and about blowing off tension. And I remember when Bobby Thompson hit that famous home run, and in the aftermath, with all the noise and everything else, time is called We Have a Chance. There's a beach ball out in right field. But in the clubhouse, Pee Wee Reese said, you know the thing that amazes me, after all the years that I have spent in baseball, that I haven't lost my sanity. And I got talking to Weaver about that, and I was saying, Earl, it really exerts a tremendous and exacts a tremendous amount from you. He said, look at this tooth. And he had one upper on the left side, and it was ripped to pieces. He said, I'm a tooth grinder. And he said, the other night I broke it, just grinding my teeth. Tremendous pressure on these fellows, no matter how much money. It doesn't make any difference how much money you're getting. Not when you're down there in the minute in the pressure cooker.
That's right. Once you start to play, you're not worried about the Dow Jones.
Here's the captain, Eddie Murray, and the count 3-2. 1 out in the 6th inning, 5-1 Boston. Fouled away. This kind of ties in with this city, too. John Franco, the relief pitcher with Cincinnati, lost his head and his cool in a bitter argument. Here's a 3-2 pitch. Line drive that's going to explode right at Quinones, and Ray throws high, and the tag is dropped. Buckner dropping the ball while trying to tag Murray, and we'll see how they rule it.
It kind of handcuffed Quinones. You see he gets the short hop, and he knows he has to cut it loose now. It's a bit high. Buckner has it. He's going to make the tag, and it drops.
Oh, it came out even before the tag.
Yeah. He didn't have it. He looked like he thought he had it in the weapon, and he didn't.
So it'll be E6. Very charged to Quinones. Just to conclude, but Franco said it's a bitter argument where I think he just barely avoided suspension. The next day in the hotel room, he turned on the television set, and it was the Jimmy Pearsall story. And he said he really got a message from that. Ball 1 to Ripken. Ripken grounded to short, single to left. He's 1 for 2. He has a 17-game hitting streak. Runs, 3 hits, 1 error for Boston, 1 run, 4 hits, and no errors for Baltimore. And there's hammered to left field. If it's fair, it's gone. It is foul and out of here.
He really jumped on that fastball in the inside part of the plate.
Which brings up a point. You might think, well, Clemens is virtually unhittable. Well, he has allowed 11 home runs. He is second on the staff to Oil Can Boyd, who has allowed 16.
He really jumped on it. Fastball. Ripken, with his hands, has a little bit of Ernie Banks in him, like he kind of plays the piccolo as he gets set back in his grip right before the delivery. It's a form of relaxation. He's got very busy hands back there. Everybody has little things they do to just be comfortable. That's the key. Be comfortable.
At bat's almost parallel to the ground until he finally lifts it. Two balls and 1 strike the count to Cal Ripken with Eddie Murray at first base. 1 out in the 6th. 5-1 Boston. That last pitch was 94, so Clemens is still bringing it. And he brings it to the screen. So Murray makes a turn at second, and he will hold there. The wild pitch is charged against Clemens. That's part of a trademark of anybody who throws that hard. He's now made 7 wild pitches this year, and it looked like a breaking ball.
It was a breaking ball, and I have to give I'd have to give Gedman half of that wild pitch because he never moved on the ball. He tried to backhand that ball, and he really didn't try to block it. He thought he was going to catch it one-handed like a first baseman, and you can't do that back there with the big pillow you're using. You got to get that big body in front of it.
Ripken followed by Larry Sheets. Oh, did he swing? That's embarrassing.
He lost his balance with that swing, but he had a good cut. Look at that leg going up, and he was determined, and he went all the way around, and whoops, down he goes.
If he was going back to the dugout now, the only consolation is, well, I didn't get cheated. I had a rip.
I tell you, every bone in your body is loose.
3-2 the count to Cal Ripken. With 1 out, Murray at second base. 5-1 Red Sox. Top of the 6th inning.
The 2 strikes that he's gotten on him have been with the fastball, so it's strength against strength.
He has struck out 4 today. His last strikeout, Mike Young, with the bases loaded in the 4th inning. High pop fly, and it's Buckner. Foul ground. So Ripken fouls out. And the gun tells us that he fouled out on a 3-2 pitch that was 94 miles an hour. The big thing now, of course, is not just to give you the speed on every pitch, but as the game progresses to make sure he can stay up there.
That's what the gun really tells you in a hurry. You can be throwing 85, but if you have good movement on the ball, that's going to get you out of a lot of trouble. But if you've been consistently 90 and all of a sudden you start dropping off, obviously it tells you, hey, he's losing something. And that's where the gun plays a big role.
Larry Sheets, thrown out by Clemens, and made a good play along with Buckner back in the second inning, and then Larry singled to right in the fourth. 1 for 2, hitting .315. Right. Eddie Murray is at second base with 2 out. Baltimore has left 4 men. They left the bases loaded in the fourth. That's when they had their only real look at the game. I'm sure there are days when you're hitting against Clemens where you feel like you've inherited an 0-2 count. Crowd looking for a K. Got it. So for Clemens, he strikes out 5, 1 with the bases loaded and another with a runner in scoring position at second. And at the end of 5.5, 5-1 Boston. Next week's game of the week right here on NBC Sports, the New York Mets at Wrigley Field, Chicago. Another storied ballpark. Others will see the Red Sox at Baltimore. That's next Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. In looking at the line score a moment ago, you saw 5 runs and 3 hits for Boston.
Jim Wright.
In this inning, Rice, Baylor, and Evans coming up, and you'll see 2 of the reasons why the Red Sox are winning with just 3 hits. Rice had nothing to do with it. He fouled out and flied out. 0-1. Jim, a half a dozen home runs and 48 RBIs. He's really come alive with the bat. For about 7 weeks, he's hit close to 360. Fly ball to shallow center. Benitez comes up. 1 away. Now, we told you that the Red Sox have done a lot with a little. Here's a little that meant a lot. It was Baylor with 2 strikes, and there were runners at second and third. He strikes out. That should have been the last out, but it appeared that Dempsey was crossed up. The breaking ball went all the way to the screen, and coming home to score was Ed Romero. And then, since the inning was extended, Evans hit the 3-run home run, and that meant a big 4 in the first inning, and Baltimore so far has been unable to recover. It is 5-1 Boston in the 6th. It's tough enough to recover from a 4-run first inning, but especially against somebody like Roger Clemens. 1-1. Ken Dixon has struck out 5, walked 2, and it's one of those what might have been days. The wind will play with it. Dempsey coming over and makes a good play.
He had control of it the whole time. That was a good play. It's a high sky up there. You can see everybody battling it.
24.
He finds that fence right away, shades his eyes. Now he feels that gravel there, and he knows he's got a little bit of room. He just waits for it.
You know, it's amazing. He stumbled briefly. It's hard to run with shin guards on, unless you've really been catching a long time.
True.
I mean, it's like running with skis on, only the skis are on your shins. And he almost stumbled when he hit the grass. And I would think a catcher, that's one of the tough things to learn in the early days.
You know, as basic as it sounds, the first thing you learn is how to put the shin guards on right. You know, people think you just put the shin guards on.
Well, now, how about that? To the screen. Ball 1. Evans hit a 3-run home run in the first inning. And Ken Dixon's first pitch, a message. And Evans is nodding back and forth. And the plate umpire, Dan Morrison, is going to interrupt the message. And Dewey is ticked off. He is more than ticked off. He's ready to go out there. Ken Dixon's first pitch sailed over his head to the backstop. Rene Lachemann telling him to cool it now.
Only one time, he's saying.
Yep.
That was a message, no question about it, because Evans was the guy that hit the 3-run homer. He's just a bit late in doing it. Here's the pitch. It's not even close, but it's definitely a message.
I mean, it wasn't close to hitting him.
No, but
it was capital letters.
That's right. The message was delivered. And Evans is just going to let him know, hey, I got your message. That I could never understand. I mean, he made the pitch, the guy hit it, so what are you knocking him down for?
And why now? In other words, he faced him in the 4th inning and struck him out. And the umpires are still not back at their positions. And now Dixon has been warned, and here comes Weaver. Of course, the warning rule is so strange. You warn one club, and that takes away a weapon from the other club automatically.
And the argument was always saying, well, how do you know he was thrown at him?
Yeah.
He just was a little bit wild.
Yeah. And for a fellow who walked 9 last time out and has only walked 2 today, he has committed 2 wild pitches. Now John McNamara will get the official word about no retaliation.
See, the first guy has the advantage,
Sure.
if you want to call it that, because you can't do anything.
That's why it's a bad rule, really. I mean, McNamara's saying, well, now you've taken away the one card that I might want to use, a little intimidation.
That's the only thing about the DH that I don't like about the rule, is that Dixon never gets up to bat.
Exactly.
So that means that you can be a little braver.
Okay, Earl has talked to Dixon. McKeon has talked to McNamara. And Evans wants to do more than talk with Ken Dixon.
He's really upset.
Oh, I thought he was going to bunt. Yeah, that would have been a throwback to the 50s.
Bunt and run up the guy's back, and then you got another free-for-all. I did that once to Rip Sewell. He threw a block into me. I landed in the Pittsburgh dugout, and they were grabbing my legs and making a wish.
2-1. I remember seeing Carl Furillo take his bat and throw it right at Sal Magley's kneecaps. Fouled away.
Magley would nenever throw at you.
No, and Furillo would never throw his bat at you.
That's right.
No.
2 unemotional guys like that.
Low
Come
key.
on.
2-2. 3-2. Boy, Evans looks like this is the last at bat in the World Series.
He didn't back out the batter's box this time like the other times.
Ground ball, base hit. Evans answering back the way the good ones do. And the batter will be Tony Armas.
20. On the Armas. Field Armas.
That's only the 4th hit allowed by Ken Dixon, but he's down by 4. Armas has struck out and walked. Tony 0 for 1. We're in the bottom of the 6th inning. 5-1 Boston.
Dewey gave a pretty good bluff at first base, and just thinking, I wonder if he's going to try to steal a base and maybe take somebody out around second base.
If I were Dixon now, I'd really keep an eye on him, because psychologically he's perfectly set up to be picked off if he's still angry.
He's still angry.
Breaking ball strike. So he goes after Armas and has the count 0-2. Steve Lyons has been playing center field, but Armas is back in there with that 5-game hitting streak. The O's will have Young, Bonilla, and Dempsey coming up in the 7th. Well, now, the crowd thinks the 0-2 pitch was an intimidating pitch.
That was just a bad curveball.
Tell that to Armas.
No, well, I think that was not a knockdown.
1-2. Tony Armas, his left foot is almost on the plate anyway, so he's a lot like a Baylor. In order to throw him a strike, you're going to have to crowd him if you want any part. Look at where his left foot is. And there goes Dewey, and it's fouled away.
You know, when you get right down to it, that knockdown pitch was about as bad a knockdown as you want to see the one he threw to heavens.
Yeah,
That was not
3 feet over his head.
I mean, that was a Class C knockdown.
You know
pitch.
what? I thought he was throwing at you. Almost got you, too.
Yeah.
Well, watch Evans. He bluffs. Half swing, down goes Armas, striking out for the 2nd time. 6 strikeouts for Dixon, a man left, and at the end of 6, 5-1 Boston. Joe, you were talking about putting the shin guards on correctly and incorrectly and how you learn.
Well, you see the buckles are on the outside part of the legs. Of course, these are modern and they're a little bit different than the ones I had, but the buckles are always on the outside. When I first came in, I didn't know how to buckle them, so I buckle them anyway. You know, you grabbed them. Well, if you got the buckles on the inside part of your legs, they'll catch, and you'll tie yourself up in a Windsor knot. So you have to be sure to get the buckles on the outside part of your legs. Simple thing like that, but you know, here I was, Italian kid, papers just in order, and
buckles on the outside. Mike Young will start it off, then Juan Bonilla and Rick Dempsey. 5-1 Red Sox, top of the 7th inning. Young has had the biggest chance for Baltimore with the bases loaded in the 4th inning and 1 out. He struck out. But of course, he struck out against Roger Clemens, who doesn't really have a strikeout pitch working today, not at least a strikeout man of his caliber. He has 5. And it should be noted that Ken Dixon has 6. Ground ball to Buckner, to Clemens coming over. Let's duck in a score or 3 and see what's going on in the big leagues today. The Yankees leading Toronto 1-0 in the 8th inning. The Cubs holding on to a 6-5 edge over the Mets in the 6th. Seattle over the Chicago White Sox 5-3. Tony La Russa walked off the bridge. Huh? What a shame.
What a shame, right.
And Detroit leading Milwaukee 3-2 in the 6th. That's it. 1 down, and Juan Bonilla, the batter.
Talking about that Met-Cubs score, Vin. We'll be in Chicago next week. If the rotation holds, Mr. Gooden will be pitching.
Be something to go from Clemens one Saturday to Gooden the next. Boy, Bonilla had himself a rip. He singled to right in the 3rd inning, hit into a force play, and he was coming from the heels at an 89-mile-an-hour pitch.
I don't think that was the fastball. It looked like the hard slider.
Fouled away. You know, Roger Clemens was drafted by the Mets, but they were unable to sign him. You could have the rather unsettling thought that the Mets today could have both Roger Clemens and Dwight Gooden. Could you imagine?
You think there'd be a few bad backs coming from the other clubs going into New York? Clemens and Gooden?
0-2. 4-1. remember years ago when the White Sox had Gossage and Forster, two guys you could really fire. One away in the 7th. It's 5-1 in favor of the Red Sox. They scored 4 in the 1st. Each side scored in the 4th. Check swing foul outside of 1st and down the line.
It'd be something to have 2 hard throwers like that and then stick a knuckleballer in between.
Charlie Huff.
Oh.
Funny how your mind goes. I think Charlie Huff just had a no-hitter explode and lose. Clemens came close. He had a no-hitter into the 8th inning against Texas. Chopper to the left is short. Quinones throws too late. Bonilla legs it out.
Quinones showed some tremendous range. He was way over on second base when he ended up. He couldn't get much on the throw because he just kind of had to flip it. Watch him. I mean, he can't really gun it. He gets it over there, but Bonilla beats the play.
Glenn Hoffman sideline. Quinones doing a good job playing short. And as you can see, another look from a different angle, and he's still safe. So an infield single for Juan Bonilla. And here's Dempsey, who takes ball 1. Back on May the 25th, Roger Clemens, pitching against Texas, had a no-hitter into the 8th inning. Oddibe McDowell singled, and Clemens eventually had to settle for a 2-hitter.
You mentioned Charlie Huff. Have you ever been around a more bizarre ending than Charlie did in that game?
Well, I tell you, when you begin the year by wrecking your handshaking somebody, anything can happen.
But a pass ball puts the run in scoring position. A strikeout pass ball, he scores from second.
And a fly ball that had been dropped.
Was dropped.
Well, George Wright is history now. At least he was traded.
Traded, yeah.
Foul tip. Well, he's back up in the 92 neighborhood again, the high rent district.
Some neighborhood.
One thing about Dempsey, which is a little bit of a surprise, he doesn't ground into many double plays. In fact, last year, he came up 86 different times where he could have hit into a double play, and he grounded into only 2. And you would figure a hard-working veteran catcher would hit into a few more than that. Foul back. Maybe you wouldn't.
No, I would.
Yeah.
I would. That is a good statistic.
Roger Clemens working on Rick Dempsey with 1 out, a runner aboard in the 7th, and the Red Sox leading Baltimore 5-1. Got him. That's a half a dozen. So how about this for an upset? Roger Clemens has now caught up to Ken Dixon.
There they are. 89 miles an hour around the outside corner. Tough pitch to handle.
So with 2 down, Tom O'Malley, who has struck out and grounded out to 3rd and to 2nd, coming up. Tom, for the 2nd time in his life, hitting leadoff. Strike. Last night, it produced 5 RBIs. 5 runs, 4 hits, and an error for Boston. 1 run, 5 hits, no errors for Baltimore.
He had that target on the outside corner. You could hear it hit. You could see it hit. He can break your glove in about 3 innings.
0-2, and of course, with a half a dozen strikeouts, the crowd now wants to see number 7. Him roll a natural.
Good pitch.
1-2.
That had something on it. Miles an hour. When you can see that ball take off and kind of bend in the middle, you know, it's like somebody's pouring milk.
I think he's just thrown only 1 at 89. All the others have been in the 90s this inning. 2-2. That's a 90. So he's living right. That's his address for the moment. 90. 90 Fenway Park. Juan Beniquez on deck. And there goes the runner, and it's fouled away.
He's not even paying attention to the runner. He's just getting the sign, and he's just rearing back and firing. As you can see, 91 miles per hour.
Can you imagine those kids on the Alabama baseball team 3 years ago in the College World Series, and they get him pitching for Texas when he was younger and could throw hard?
Yeah, now that he's an old man and he's
right.
still in the 90s.
2-2. A little surprised to see Bonilla going, and Buckner is not holding him on, and he was going on a 2-2 pitch. He's still not holding him on with the left-hand hitter up there. And he's not going, and it's foul the other way. Of course, a lot of times you'll have a Buckner was almost picked off there a minute ago. A lot of times first basemen, the way they hold their glove towards the pitcher is the indication of whether they want you to come over there or not.
They'll have a signal. Hernandez is the best at that. He'll tell you he's got messages going all the time.
2-2. The count to Tom O'Malley. Buck behind Bonilla, and that's fouled away.
You know, speaking of Alabama and the College World Series, I saw the story where maybe Kansas City's going to sign Bo Jackson.
That's right. Yeah.
That'll be something. He'll be, since Pete Dawkins, a Heisman Trophy winner, not going to football. But, man, those numbers he's getting, I don't blame him.
2-2 the count to Tom O'Malley. Bonilla holds, and it's ball 3. Now, of course, Bonilla will be going with 2 out and a full count. 5-1 Boston in the 7th inning. 2 out. Buckner deep at first and blowing bubbles. Clemens working hard. He's made 22 pitches, and only 4 of them have been under 90 miles an hour. Bonilla goes, and it's fouled away. It has not been that easy for Clemens. It's not as if he's a kid who is given a great fastball and everything's been fine. He's had 2 years in a row of surgery. He had surgery on his right shoulder in August and didn't face Baltimore last year. The runner goes, fouled away again, and O'Malley got that one. And he got it on his right foot, or front foot. If you're in the big leagues, you're invariably going to hit a foul ball on your front foot on a 93.
I tell you, when you look at the inning and he's still throwing in the 90s, that's durability.
You know, you talk about the Ides of March. Because of his injuries and surgeries, Roger Clemens has never pitched in a major league game after the 31st of August. They've never had him. Look at Weaver. Bonilla ready and goes. Ground foul the other way. Boy, you talk about hanging in there and hacking away. That's Tom O'Malley.
Make him stop.
And Weaver's saying he's balking.
Make him stop. Just somebody. You got a rule book. Early.
Now he's on the third base umpire, John Shulock.
Somebody calling.
John looks very pensive, deep in thought. And that's to the backstop. Bonilla will hold at second base on the advice of Cal Ripken. So first and second with 2 down, and Juan Beniquez coming up. This really is only the second rally for Baltimore today, and John McNamara is going out there to talk to Clemens. Remember, Baltimore had the bases loaded in the 4th and a run in, and Clemens just bulled his way out of it by striking out Young and getting Bonilla. Now, with 2 on and 2 out, he has Beniquez. Steve Crawford up for the 2nd time in the Boston bullpen.
made 116 pitches, 80 strikes, and 36 balls. So that's a lot of pitches. And I'm sure John will ask him a few questions, and it's not so much the answers, but the way he answers them that'll make his decision. And obviously, he's passed the test.
Juan Beniquez checking in. He has struck out, walked, and scored the Baltimore run and popped up. So Juan 0 for 2. Bonilla at second, O'Malley at first, 2 down.
That's when you leave the bench making up your mind you're going to swing at the first pitch.
You're figuring after the managers talk to you and Bonilla's at second, O'Malley's at first with 2 out, he's got to throw me a strike.
Right down the middle. He didn't.
And he did. Gave him a little heat that time. 92 and the count 0-2.
Well, he'll not try to finesse him here. I would think 7th inning, he walked the previous hitter that he's got 2 strikes. Go get him on this pitch.
Boy, he's made a lot of pitches in this inning, too. 0-2. 0-1. He got Young on a ground ball. Bonilla was up there a while and finally singled. Dempsey struck out. O'Malley kept fouling him off and finally walked, and yet after making 29 pitches in the inning, he hits a 94, and we're in the 7th inning. 1-2. Fastball, and it's hit sinking into left center for a base hit. Rounding third is Bonilla to score, and that makes it 5-2 Boston. And it also means the hitter, Jim Dwyer, left-hand batter, is the tying run. So Bonilla carries it in. A lot of pitches, especially this late in the game. For Clemens, in 13 previous starts, he completed 5. Dwyer the batter, and then of course Eddie Murray on deck. So Baltimore had a big opportunity and let it get away in the 7th inning. Now with 2 down, they're trying to do some business. Dwyer flied to right, singled to right, and flied to center.
This could be his last man. He's got to get him.
Weaver trying to get his ball club off the deck. They were down 4-0, 4-1, 5-1, now 5-2. Ball 1. Clemens, although he has completed only 5 of his 13, he has averaged better than 8 innings a start. Beniquez at first, O'Malley at second, 2 out. And that's a little pop fly that Marty Barrett should catch. So 2 hits and a walk for a run. It is 5-2 Boston at the end of 6½, and here's another edition of the 7th inning stretch. Coming up next, World Cup soccer from Guadalajara, the quarterfinal match between Brazil and France. Should be a dandy. This is what you would call a retired number that's active. You remember Earl Weaver's uniform number 4 was retired when he supposedly retired, along with Frank Robinson. And both 4 and 20 are back in the big leagues, and 4 is ticked off.
He did that between innings, and he's talking about the balk move, and all it is for the next time that he pitches. He's just planted the seed and hoped that the garden grows.
Number 10.
Rich Gedman, followed by Ray Quinones, and then Marty Barrett. Gedman struck out and had a scoring fly ball in the 4th inning. It is 5-2 Boston in the 7th. Ball 1. Gedman, 4 home runs, 20 RBIs. So Ken Dixon, who started off on such a wobbly style, has settled down very, very well. And of course, had he made a play in the 1st inning, we'd really have a pitching duel. Foul back.
Gedman, the all-star catcher at Minnesota last year in the American League. He had a lot of timely home runs. He had 18 home runs last year, and 10 of them either tied the score or put the Sox ahead.
He's made himself a good catcher. You talked to Carlton Fisk about him. Fisk said he just bothered me all during spring training when we were together.
Ball 4 to the whiz from Worcester. So Gedman draws a walk. A reminder, this telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Ray Quinones flied to center twice, 0 for 2.
This is one of the few combinations that McNamara has that he can do something with. Bunt, hit and run, run and hit.
And they'll play bunt. Dixon to Bonilla, so the sacrifice works. Now it's up to Barrett and Romero to pick him up. Gedman at second base in the 7th inning, 5-2 Boston.
Number 17, Marty Barrett. Second base, Barrett.
Marty Barrett struck out, flied to right, and popped up. He's a good bunter. If he's thinking about a bunt for a base hit last year, that was one of his favorite weapons. He rarely strikes out, although he did strike out leading off the game. Time, too much time.
This time Dixon didn't even throw the ball.
And this time Dan Morrison didn't stand up and be wide open and naked under the world. He stood behind his catcher.
He's also telling Barrett, don't wait that long because I can't give you time after he starts into his delivery. They're still not agreeing as to when he can call time.
Marty's from a baseball family. He has a brother who is in the Dodger organization and another brother, Tom, who's in the Yankee system. Baseball big in the Barrett family. Barrett hitting .270. Good breaking ball. 0-1.
You know, I guess it's because of the position I play, but I always look at the feet, Vin, and the close stance that Barrett has, that right foot is almost pointing towards you, and then as he gets ready to hit, as he digs in there, he kind of gets up on his back toe for some reason. Now he's really pointing away from you. Now look at him. See it?
Mm-hmm.
Watch that thing start up. He'll sneak up on you. Yeah?
And he lifts a little fly ball into shallow left center. Mike Young is there. And holding at second is Gedman. We have 2 down and Romero the batter.
It's funny how, you know, when you do that after a while, they just move a little bit and it just sticks out like a sore thumb because you can bear down looking at a guy's feet, you know.
And then you can use it?
Oh, yeah. Sure you can use it. He pretty much tells you what he's going to be doing if your pitcher can execute.
Wouldn't it be something if you're looking at his foot and he's looking at your fingers?
That's right.
You're so busy looking at his foot.
You got to watch him because they'll do that.
Sure. Romero had an infield single in the first inning. That was a big play. There were a whole bunch of big plays in the first inning. Strike, 0-1. The Boston Red Sox. Give you an idea how hungry they are up here. They haven't won a World Series since Babe Ruth was pitching. That was the 1918 series. Johnny came marching home. Ground ball. Great stop by O'Malley. Tom on his feet. Throws to Murray and gets him. Excellent play. So Gedman is left at second, leading off with a walk. Take another look at Thomas O.
The surrounding Fenway Park clean by using the trash receptacles in the area. Thank you.
Up and Adam O'Malley. And at the end of 7, 5-2 Boston. Bigara.
Here's that last play by O'Malley. He makes a good diving grab, but watch his throw. He really can't get into it, and he kind of has to flip it, and he really got good velocity on it and was able to get his man. That was a fine play by young O'Malley.
Out in center field, Steve Lyons will pick up for Tony Armas as we go to the 8th inning. Murray, Ripken, and Sheets, the big guys, and Murray fouls it off. 0-1. It is 5-2 Boston. Eddie Murray grounded out, lined out in the 4th inning. That was a big play. and was aboard on an error by Quinones in the 6th inning. Little fly ball slicing foul and peeling off back into the crowd. Stanley and Crawford had been heating up. It's Stanley and Sambito now, and Crawford, who had been up a couple of times, sits down. So they're backing up Clemens in the Red Sox bullpen.
That Sambito is quite a story here in Boston.
What a comeback story that is.
Yes, sir.
0-2 to Eddie Murray. 4-1. Clemens has struck out 6 while walking 1. Make it 2. Murray trying to start it off here in the 8th inning. Baltimore running out of time, down to their last 6 outs. Ball 3. Baltimore's capable of getting hot against anybody, and all you have to do is look back at the month of May. They won 16 out of 19, but they turned right around to lose 12 out of 20. So they're back to struggling. 7 games back of the Red Sox. Fisted foul into the crowd, back a third. And he opens up the 8th inning by walking Eddie Murray. That's the 3rd walk given up by Roger Clemens. Weaver talking to Robinson, and you have Ripken and Sheets coming up, and then Mike Young. Meanwhile, John McNamara looking over the possibilities and probabilities of Earl Weaver. Cal Ripken grounded to short, single to left to extend his hitting streak to 17 straight, and then last time up fouled out. So Baltimore trying to build something against Clemens. They made a charge at him in the 4th inning and again in the 7th. And now the leadoff man aboard in the 8th. Ball 1. 5-2 Boston in the 8th inning. So impressive looking at 6'4" and 215. He was a great all-around athlete in high school. Baseball, basketball, he was even a defensive end in football. Got another one.
Fastball and a curveball for a strike. And right in, no man's land, the outside corner, and you can see Ripken just backs out that batter's box, and that's to really take inventory here.
That breaking ball was clocked at 80. 1-2. Fastball lifted to right field. Evans has to come up for it. The wind started to bring it back. Now he throws to Buckner, but Murray's at the bag. 1 away. And the batter will be Larry Sheets. Interestingly enough, although I've never been there, I was told that at Springwoods High School in Houston, where Clemens pitched, down the left field line was 315 feet, which is exactly the dimension here at Fenway Park. So he's had a short porch ever since high school.
I would imagine he kind of overmatched him in high school.
And college. And at 12-0 in the big leagues.
Not too shabby.
In fact, the Red Sox have won his 13 previous starts. 1 game against Oakland, he came out, as you see Frank Robinson on the phone of the bullpen. Carney Lansford hit a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 9th against Bob Stanley. The Sox eventually won that game in extra innings.
Eddie Murray at first base is jawing with McKean about the balk move. He's the captain of the ball club, and he and McKean have been discussing that balk move or not balk move. Even though he's on base, he's carrying the torch for Weaver.
On the corner. So Clemens, with a half a dozen strikeouts and 3 walks, is 0-2 on Larry Sheets. Clemens threw out Sheets on a good play in the second inning. Then Sheets singled to right in the 4th and struck out in the 6th. Oh, tough pitch, off speed, just off the corner.
Oh, that's one of those pitches. You are completely fooled. There's nothing you can do. He's fooled right there, and you just want to be cool now, like, yeah, that was outside by 1/8 of an inch.
1-2. Back to the Heat. Ground ball to Buckner. He bobbles, recovers, over to Clemens covering. On the play, Murray slid into second. He thought maybe Buck had a play down there.
Murray had it right because he did have a play. He would have gone try for the 3-6-3, but when he bobbles it, you can see it here. Now he thinks he's got to play. Whoops, now he loses it, and he better make sure he gets one. And he's been around long enough not to panic, and it's the perfect play. Clemens makes a left turn so he doesn't get spiked, and they got the big out.
And Mike Young coming up. 2 down. Murray at second base. Young flied to center, leading off, struck out with the bases loaded in the 4th. That was a big out, and then grounded out leading off in the 7th. So he's 0 for 3. 0-1.
Eddie Murray at second base he's going to get every umpire. Now he's talking to Al Clark at second base about the possible balk move.
Well, the general spoke first, and the captain's carrying out the orders.
And he's going station to station. Look at him.
Ground ball wide of first. Buckner makes a great stop, a 360, and the throw is in time. Clemens made a tumble and still got him.
What a play on both ends, and McKean has really had some close ones at first. Watch this.
As you can see, it was back on April the 23rd that they last exceeded a crowd of that number. 35,707. That's really above a full house. That counts standing room and obstructed view. It's about 2,000 roughly over a full house.
Bill Buckner.
And here's Bill Buckner, who made that dazzling play to save Clemens. Certainly Eddie Murray would have perhaps scored on the play if it had gotten by into right field. Buckner with the bat, single to right, flied to right, flied to left. 1 for 3, scored a run. Buck with 8 home runs, 36 RBIs, but only a .238 average. About 60 points below his lifetime average. Dixon with a half a dozen strikeouts and 3 walks. Clemens with a half a dozen strikeouts and 3 walks. Been that way too from the first day he put on a baseball uniform.
Tough to get that third one by him.
Buck that time was asking for time with his eyes riveted on Dixon. He didn't want to have a second pitch made. 1-2. Dixon outside of the first inning, where little bits of things unraveled on him, he has pitched very well. Pop fly back a shortstop. Tough play for Ripken. He's got to find it. It's going to be a diving try and out of the glove of Mike Young. Picked up, and the throw into second, not in time. It was in and out of Mike Young's glove.
And Al Clark, the umpire, hustling. It really got him. You can see it pop out of the glove. Good try by Mike Young. Pulled on the pitch, throws the bat at it. You can see it's going to be trouble. Now watch Young come into your picture. Sliding. Just kind of scooped it up, and it caroms off Al Clark, and Buckner has himself a double.
So a pop fly double in the 8th inning. Take another look. Watch it go in the glove and then come up as he hits the ground like a piece of wet soap.
And Al Clark trying to get out of the way.
And hustling right there, too, is John Shulock making the call. The third base umpire moving over. Here's Jim Rice. Fly ball to center. Back goes Beniquez on the track. Tagging up is Buckner. Beniquez for the catch. And Buck, gimpy-legged, getting over to third. Boy, he ran over to third like Chester on Gunsmoke. You see that? He's got a bad wheel, but he's playing. No wonder he has been sprawling. Watch him run from second. I think he's carrying his rifle tied to that leg.
He plays. He plays in pain.
Boy, he is something. I'll never forget, we were talking about Weaver being mad, tearing up a bag. He did the same thing. Drive that's going to go deep, foul, and out of here. Buckner one night in St. Louis got so mad over being out at first base, he tried to rip the bag right out of the ground. Yeah, really. It took quite a while. They finally had to tell him, hey, get out of here, kid. And Weaver saying, wait a minute, that's a little too close. Not the pop fly double, but that shot by Baylor. He has Snell and Havens down there in the pen. And Nate Snell, the right-hander, probably, if he's going to go in there, to go against Baylor.
I never saw a guy do that with the base, but the weirdest thing I ever saw is in the minor leagues. Guy hit a home run, and the manager took him out for pinch hitter. Next time up, ran out to the scoreboard and took the one off the scoreboard and went in the clubhouse.
And he didn't make it to the big leagues?
No.
Oh, what a shame. So Nate Snell is coming in to pick up the pieces for Ken Dixon. Dixon goes 7 1/3 innings, allows at least 5 runs. Buckner at third base is his responsibility. Things would have been a lot different if he had handled a ball hit by Romero, or if he had struck out Baylor for the third out instead of striking him out on a wild pitch in the first inning. The saddest words of tongue and pen. You can write down Ken Dixon, and we'll be right back. We mentioned we have an overflow crowd. Now this is overflow.
They are in a different time zone out there. It's only the third inning for them. You guys got a TV set up there? You watch it on TV?
Here's Don Baylor now against Nate Snell. And got him on the kneecap, and so Baylor hit by a pitch yet again. 204 times in his career. And it is the 16th time that he's been hit. Make it 208 for the record book.
And you know that he's only rubbed once. That's the truth.
Really?
One time. Nolan Ryan, I think, got him. And that's the only time he rubbed.
Thereby hangs the tale. Nolan Ryan. Aye, there's the rub.
Oh, thank you there, Willie.
Yes. Dwight Evans. Homered, struck out, and singled. So the Sox with runners at first and third and 1 out in the 8th and leading 5-2 in the 8th inning. One and 0. Buckner hanging at third after a pop fly double in and out of the glove of Mike Young. Baylor nicked by the pitch over at first. Ground ball, foul ball. Dwight Evans was once asked what was his greatest achievement. He said driving a car in Boston for 13 and a half years without a dent. I love it.
Look at that score.
Guidry and Alexander 1-1 in the 10th. I think Brian Fisher had to pick up for Louisiana Lightning. 2-1 the count to Dewey. Snell, 6'4", 185-pounder. As you can see, the Cubs and Mets are tied up in the 8th. Nate is out of South Carolina. Fouled away. He missed a month last year with a fractured rib, and he was still a workhorse. So Nate Snell working on Dwight Evans. Runners at first and third, 1 out in the 8th. 5-2 in favor of the Red Sox, with Bonilla, Dempsey, and O'Malley due up in the 9th.
A busted bat and a dunker to center. And that'll get Buckner home. It'll send Baylor to third. It is 6-2 Boston. So that's the ultimate indignity, to crack your bat and hit a flare for a base hit and an RBI. And for Dwight Evans, he has 4 of the 6 Red Sox runs. Sounded like celery when he hit it.
He really gets jammed, and it is a flare. See if it bends the grass.
The run is charged to Dixon. The hit is charged to Snell. And Earl Weaver making his way out to the mound. And he'll go to the pen, but he has to be happy with Snell. You can't do very much more than jam the hitter, break his bat, and then you get a base hit, and it's just not your day. 6 runs, 6 hits for Boston. 2 runs, 6 hits for Baltimore. And with Steve Lyons coming up, they'll go to the pen again. So we'll be right back after this. Left-hander Brad Havens, who was originally signed by the Angels, then acquired by the Twins, and eventually moved over from Minnesota in a deal for Mark Brown. So Havens with a 2-1 record, trying to get the left-hand hitting Steve Lyons, and another one, Rich Gedman, on deck. And you can see the Yankees have forged ahead 2-1 in the 10th inning against the Jays. So Steve Lyons gets a chance to swing the bat. Tony Armas had a 5-game streak snap today, struck out twice and walked. Slow curve with the infield up at the corners, and that's fouled away. 0-1. First and third, 1 out in the 8th. Sox leading 6-2. Murray and O'Malley ready to make a move on a ball. Spinner for a strike.
This is one of those spots, if he doesn't drive in the run, the Kangaroo Court will get Steve Lyons, who I understand is the leader as far as payments made to the court.
They almost hung him when he tried to steal the other day with Wade Boggs at the plate. This time he strokes it in the air to center. Benitez going back to get it. Baylor tags at third. Benitez has his throw cut off as Baylor comes home to score. And it is 7-2 Boston. So the hit batsman is cashed in, as is the little broken bat Flair. 2 additional runs for the Red Sox to lead 7-2.
Gedman, the catcher.
That run is charged to Snell. And Rich Gedman coming up. All the little things in this game today. The ground ball that went under Dixon's glove. The strikeout for the 3rd out. That was a cross-up with Dempsey, we think. Later on, a wild pitch meant a run. That's ball 1, and the throw down is too late.
He really had a jump. Havens had the ball, and he had already taken 2 steps. Evans read him so well.
Only the 15th stolen base for the Red Sox all year. So I guess you fall asleep once in a while. You just don't expect him to run. And for Evans, that is his second stolen base of 1986. A modest thing, but thine own. Ground ball to third. O'Malley is there. And that's that. But that means 2 additional runs. And at the end of 8, the Red Sox sitting high atop a 7-2 lead. Bonilla, Dempsey, and O'Malley. Don't forget, following baseball, more excitement. The World Cup Soccer right here on NBC Sports. The quarterfinal match, Brazil versus France. Coming up next. Big Bob Stanley comes out of the Red Sox bullpen to finish off for Roger Clemens, who went 8 innings, allowed 2 runs, 6 hits, walked 3, struck out 6.
He's got the perfect nickname, huh? Steamer?
Oh, Steamer. Well, he didn't steam much last night except at himself. He came in and worked 2/3 of an inning and gave up 4 runs and 6 hits, but it was lost in the avalanche as Baltimore scored 14 on 20 hits. But they've been pretty much shut down today.
Second base.
Juan Bonilla singled to right, hit into a force play, and singled to short. 2 for 3. Al Pardo on deck. Pardo to bat for Dempsey. Strike. There's Al. One and 1 to count to Juan Bonilla. Breaking ball, grounded foul outside of third. Bonilla 2 for 3, the only Oriole with more than 1 hit. Juan trying to get something started here in the 9th. Stanley is the same size as Clemens, but a little heavier, where Clemens is 6'4", 215. The Steamer 6'4", 220. And that's hit up the middle, but to his left is Quinones. Gets him. 1 down. Friends, the Major League Baseball game of the week has been brought to you by your Toyota dealer and the new 4x4 gas turbo truck. Who could ask for anything more? By Manville, 21,000 people with one goal to be America's very best supplier. By Wagner, when it comes to painting, Wagner does a better job. And by Miller Lite, for great taste, there's only one light beer. Al Pardo, who apparently is the heir apparent to Rick Dempsey's job whenever, hits one off the end of the stick down to Quinones. And Ray throws him out. And now the Sox have just 1 out to go. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman, the coordinating producer for NBC Baseball, and the director of today's game, Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's game of the week, produced by John J. Filippelli. Pre-game produced by Les Dennis. Pre-game directed by Joe Michaels. Technical directors Neil Flagg and Sal Nagita. So the O's are down to their last out. So from 14 runs and 20 hits last night, 2 runs and 6 hits today. And how many times have you seen that happen to a club?
Isn't that something?
Of course, there was a fellow named Roger Clemens to contend with. Ball 1. O'Malley of the O's is 0 for 3. Struck out, grounded out twice, walked, and made a good play on Ed Romero in the 7th inning. Fouled away. So Earl Weaver, who started in 3rd place 7 games back, facing the reality of trailing by 8 as he visit was Dempsey. The ground ball to Buckner. He feeds to Stanley, and that's it. As O'Malley rolls out, and the O's go quietly in the 9th inning. The totals on the game for Boston: 7 runs, 6 hits, and 1 error, snapping a 3-game losing streak here at Fenway. For Baltimore, 2 runs, 6 hits, and no errors. The winning pitcher Roger Clemens. And Clemens is right there now with Ron Guidry, a record of 13-0, along with Brooks Lawrence, who was 13-0 at Cincinnati. The next stop, Dave McNally of Baltimore, 1969, 15-0. 7-2 Red Sox. Will be back after this. Sox over the Birds 7-2. Clemens is 13-0. Ken Dixon is 6-5. Dewey Evans hit his 8th before the largest crowd since April of 1978. And by the way, this week's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game is Dwight Evans. Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Dwight Evans to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Talk to you next Saturday. For Joe Garagiola, Vin Scully from Boston, wishing you good day.